Hello friends. This is the Ani Fanfics. How are you all? So we are back with an amazing movie on, what if Naruto's was the adopted son of Shinigami and Death Lord Kid? Here's a summary. A home, a family, and a partner that can match up to the Shinigami himself. Naruto Uzumaki Death, adopted son of Shinigami and brother to Death the Kid, as well as partner, Meister of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. How will Shibusen and Death City deal with this eccentric person? But before we begin, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's begin. The Technical School for Reaper Arms Masters. In short, the Shibusen, operating from the deepest recesses of all the corners of the world, in order to prevent the second coming of the demon god, who would bring about the destruction of all existence and envelop mankind within the spirals of madness. The Shinigami established this agency of weapons and those that would be trained to wield them. To put it bluntly, it's an organization of justice to protect peace, but why is it a trade school of all things? Well, who cares? Alright then, let's get all hyped up and read on. It is the darkest of nights, as the grinning moon shined down on the peaceful city in the Nevada desert. Known to travelers as the oasis of the desert, this city is named Death City, and despite its dark and gloomy appearance, within its walls is a rather lively city rich in atmosphere and culture. Yet tonight was not so peaceful after all. As within the richer parts of the city, a robbery was in progress inside a well-windowed mansion that adorned the symbols of the Shinigami, skull and sides. The lights within a room turn on, as a shadowy figure rushed towards the middle window and with what appeared as a jump. Crash. The person busted through the glass windows, alerting everyone inside of the intruder. Landing on the street, despite the two-story drop, the figure reveals to be a man wearing white boots and fingerless gloves, black spandex underpants which were held up by a white belt, and a full-body red tight skin-pressed outfit that covered his entire body except his head, and was covered with a yellow-like cape. His mask was that of a freaky kind, as it portrayed a look of a demon of sorts. A smooth head, spiky appendages over his ears and a pointy nose. His mask covered the top half of his face, leaving a bit of his brown hair to stick out from underneath. His last features were his yellow pupil-less eyes and sharp pointed teeth. Resting the bag that he had over his shoulders, the man opened it up to reveal glowing blue orbs of light. These orbs were that of human souls. Letting off a sharp grin, he closed up the bag before hefting it back on his shoulders and started running away before trouble arrived. Bang. Bang. Stopping dead cold as two pinkish shots of energy narrowly misses him. He turns around to spot the one to stop him. Looking up, he finds the culprit high above him pointing his still smoking guns directly at him. The guns were that of a silver texture with a black handle. The only thing the robber could tell of the person was the silhouette of his shape being that of a small male figure, as the blood-grinning moon seemingly loomed behind the shooter at him. Almost mockingly, the shooter stood confidently at the point of a rooftop, with his two pistols by his side. It took only a second, but the robber knew immediately who the person was, and not wanting to stick around any further, turned and ran. The shooter merely let off a small smirk at the attempt of escape. Following the robber's path, he let off a few shots and to the robber it seemed luck saved him from being shot. But to the shooter, he was leading him. Narrowly missing being shot in the foot, the red outfit-wearing robber made a hasty turn and without realizing it ran straight into a dead-end alleyway, grunting angrily at his own stupidity for falling for such a cheap trap. It's over, Lupin. Hearing the voice of a child's voice, the now identified robber, Lupin, turned to confront his shooter. He watched as the person held his guns up slightly, and in a few seconds, started to glow a soft pink. He continued watching as his chaser brought his guns higher up, and tensing for any moves he might pull. With a flick, the shooter threw his guns behind him, and Lupin watched as the two weapons shaped themselves to that of two female individuals that landed behind the child. Putting on a serious face, the shooter leveled a glare with Lupin. Lupin the bandit. We'll be collecting your soul, turned into an egg of the demon god. The serious atmosphere was ruined, as the child and his partners announced together in a comical pose. The child knelt to the ground with his arms spread downwards, the youngest of the females having her legs spread as she stood behind the kneeling child with her arms straight out on both sides, and the eldest female stood straight at the back with her arms going upwards. All this with the youngest female being slightly off-center of the pose. All the robber could do was stand there staring at them. Character info. Death the Kid, son of the death god, Shinigami, a young person of 14 or 15 of age, that helps his father keep the world peaceful by hunting down quiche and eggs before they can become a problem. His attire is of a refined manner, mostly because of his status. His wardrobe is that of a standard black business suit with white rectangles. The rectangles are placed in a manner that is completely symmetrical. There are at least 6 small rectangles along the seam where the sleeves attach to the jacket, and 4 small rectangles run along the front of his jacket. His undershirt is a formal white dress shirt, and a metallic skull rests under his collar, and could be used as a tie. His color scheme is meant to copy his father's, where the only color variation between black and white is the color of his eyes. Despite his status and powers, he unfortunately suffers from obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD, which is manifested as an obsession over symmetry, otherwise known as asymmetrophobia. Things, and people, must be perfectly symmetrical, lest something unknown and awful happen. Elizabeth Liz Thompson, elder sister of Patricia Thompson and one of Death the Kid's demon twin guns, she and her sister used to live on the streets of Brooklyn before being found by Kid. Both Patty and Liz tried to rob Kid when they saw him, so they were surprised when Kid came to save them from a group of thugs. Liz has light caramel-colored brown hair that reaches her mid-back, dark blue eyes, and tanned skin. She has a smaller breast size than her little sister, which annoys her to no end, though she is much taller. Both of the Thompson sisters wear cowgirl outfits, a tight sleeveless red turtleneck belly shirt with a white tie, cowboy hat and black high-heel boots. However, unlike Patty, Liz wears long jeans and also wears 2 silver bracelets on each wrist. Also, there is a subtle difference in their hats. Patty's hat has rounded rims, whilst Liz's hat has rims that slant forward. Patricia Patty Thompson, younger and more naive of the 2 Thompson sisters and the second of Death the Kid's demon twin guns, Patty has chin length, bright yellow, blonde hair with bangs, light blue eyes and a larger breast size than her sister, even though her sister is much older and taller than her. Both of the Thompson sisters wear cowgirl outfits, a tight, red, sleeveless, turtleneck belly shirt with a white tie, cowboy hat and black, high-heel boots. However, unlike Liz, Patty wears puffy shorts. There is also a subtle difference in her hat. Liz's hat has rims that slant forwards, whereas Patty's hat has rims that are in a perfect curve. End character info. Grumbling and twitching, Kid stood up angrily and faced Patty as he pointed and stomped the ground repeatedly. "Oi Patty! Your stance is a little off." Looking down, the naive Patty saw what Kid meant as she was off-center by a few centimeters to the right. Jumping to the right in surprise, she made a sheepish gesture towards Kid. "Oh. I'm sorry." Liz just continued standing there as she developed a sweat drop for this whole situation she found herself being involved. The robber wasn't faring any better, as he just continued staring at the scene in front of him, before noticing a manhole underneath him. "Hey Kid. Do you think now is the time to be worrying about that?" Liz asked. "I don't care what time it is, I always want everything to be exact," he argued back. "Yeah, but we're kind busy right now," she just reasoning. Hearing a noise, Patty was the only one to look up as Liz and Kid continued their argument. She was the only one to notice that Lupin was attempting at stuffing the sack full of souls down the manhole by jumping on it. The bandits bouncing up and down. "Patty, haven't I always said that my aesthetic sense is all about symmetry, the greatest beauty?" Kid. By now Lupin had managed in stuffing the sack down the hole, with him following behind shortly afterwards, both disappearing into the sewers. All the while Patty was trying to get Kid's attention by waving her hand in front of him but couldn't help but laugh at the scene. He got away. Kid quickly got irritated as he was trying to win over his conversation with Liz, so he turned towards Patty. "When people are talking, can't you listen properly?" Kid's corner, symmetry, that is my aesthetic, he stated. Liz sticking her head in. "Here we go. That's why I love using you 2 twin pistols. When I wield you, you're symmetrical, right?" Getting irritated all of a sudden, "But when you turn back into human form, your hairstyles are different, and you're different heights." To make his point, he either naively or bravely reached out with both hands, and with his left grabbed Patty's left breast and with his right grabbed Liz's right breast, "And you chests are different sizes, too." Punch. "I'm sorry I'm not as big as my little sister," she yelled as she punched Kid. Getting irritated herself, she decided to retaliate. "Who are you to talk about symmetry anyway?" Pointing to his face, "You have 3 stripes in your hair that's only on the left side. That's not symmetrical at all, is it?" KO Kid's entire composure cracked at that. And before either of his partners could stop him, he went down onto the ground as he fist pounded weakly on the concrete floor. Oh, the humanity. I'm a hideous pig. Why does my hair have to be this way? I'm nothing but a worthless piece of garbage. Damn it. I deserve to die. Off to the side, Patty stood laughing as Liz just groaned to herself at what she started. Not again. Patty. Right. The two sisters knelt down next to their wielder and tried cheering him up. You're the next in line to the god of death, right? What do those 3 stripes matter? Kid-kun, you're not a pig. Pigs go, oink. Right? So don't be so depressed. Patty added in, patting Kid on the back. Kid looked up at his partners with admiration, gratitude and hope in his eyes. You mean I'm not a piece of garbage? Liz responded, of course not. With Patty adding, trash goes, poo. Feeling relieved, Kid stood up proudly once more. Well, I suppose I'll report to Chichiyu, honorable father. Turning around he prepares. Liz just sat there with a deadpan look on her face while sweat drops developed. I don't know whether he's easy to deal with or hard to deal with. He's such a spoiled brat. Bringing his hands up below his chin, palms facing outwards, he turns them around and quickly touches each of his fingers with the other on the opposite hand. Extending his hands outwards, he has them with his thumb, main finger and pinky finger sticking out while the remaining fingers closed up. Not a second longer, light began gathering at the pointed digits, with some black ghastly skulls flying off as well. A pillar of light came to existence in front of Kid, as below him on the ground, the light took shape of a skull-like glyph. The skull having a round head, 3 holes in a triangle shape, 2 on top and 1 below, with 3 spiky teeth as its mouth below. What's up? What's up? A sing-song cheerful voice coming from the light sounded off, followed by the sudden appearance of the Shinigami himself. Character info. Shinigami, or Lord Death as some calls him, a being that governs the souls of both the good and the evil. Appearance-wise, Lord Death seems to have the most eccentric appearance one would think of a being that rules death. He is arguably one of the tallest persons you would meet. He also wears a black robe with many jagged edges which appears to house his arms and covers his entire body, with his face being covered by a cartoonish skull mask. In the past, Lord Death wore a far more grim-looking skull mask, which he changed from this more frightful mask after the establishment of Death Weapon Meester Academy because it always scared the children. He also had black claws with his signature written on one and had a deep, menacing voice. He is the ruler of death, the father of Death the Kid, adopted father of another son and the establisher of Death Weapon Meester Academy, DWMA, as well as Death City 800 years ago. End character info. Jumping backwards so his entire body can be viewed. Ah, those 3 stripes in your hair are as cute as ever, he commented to Kid. Chichiyu. It makes me unhappy. That is a source of pride for you. Kid replied monotonously with a blank look in his face. Both Liz and Patty appeared behind Kid with their arms crossed, with Liz whispering to Shinigami, "You really shouldn't talk about that right now." That only brought confusion to the Shinigami, evident with his questioning look towards the group. Pushing that aside, well, whatever. Looks like your gathering of souls turned into eggs of the demon god is progressing nice, eh? Looking around, he noticed something. Well, more like missing something. Kid notices his father's confusion. Is there something wrong, Chichiyu? Humming to himself before addressing his son and partners, Kid-kun. Where is Naruto-kun? That made the 3 stiff before they all turned behind them, as if expecting the missing individual to be there. Ah, he was. Kid looked at Liz. Wasn't he just behind us a while ago? Liz was just as confused. He was. Thinking back a bit, but he vanished when we cornered Lupin. While Shinigami stood listening as Kid and Patty discussed the whereabouts of their fellow Meister, the Lord of Death took notice of how Patty stood by the side staring up on the rooftops and waving. Looking where she was, his eyes seemed to brighten up. Ah, there you are. Kid and Liz stopped as they heard Shinigami speak. Noticing where he was gazing, they too looked to find a figure sitting on top of a rooftop nearby, with Lupin hung over his shoulders out cold. Naruto-kun, Shinigami finished, with his signature eye smiles. The figure, clearly male, just let off a smirk as he jumped down to the ground easily despite it being 4 stories high. Dropping Lupin on the ground on his right, while the sack Lupin had was dropped towards Shinigami's image, this getting a nod of approval from the Lord of Death. Giving a single hand wave, yo. Chichiyu, his blue cerulean eyes gleamed as he greeted his father. Character info. Naruto Uzumaki death, 16 years, or so, old adopted son of Shinigami of 10 years. Despite not being the actual son of the Lord of Death, Naruto has inherited his father's DNA as a result of a hand Lord Death had played in during his infancy life of less than a days old. His appearance is that of a wild spiky blonde hair, blue cerulean eyes with slitted pupils, 3 whisker marks adorning both his cheeks, the slight elongated fangs protruding from his mouth and a tanned complexion. His attire completely dispels the ideals of him being Shinigami's son as a result of its irrelevancy, unlike Kid's, and more of a soldier. He wore black-white camouflage-oriented long pants that closed off just where his silver-plated, black army boots starts. He wore a simple black short-sleeved t-shirt with a single image of Shinigami's skull dead center. He chose that to avoid Kid having a panic attack every time he saw him, underneath a dark silver hooded sleeveless coat. To finalize his look, he wore black fingerless gloves that had silver plating sewed on around the knuckles, a white headband with the kanji for Second Son on it, and lastly were the skull rings on each hand, very similar to Kid's. He's a person of mystery, as only a select few knows of his origins, and even fewer knows of his burden. End character info. Oi, oi, oi. Looking at Kid, what was that back there with the whole posing thing? Didn't we go over this last mission with him, Liz-chan? The last part a question directed to Liz, as he and her had discussed Kid of his eccentric intros. She could only sigh as she shrugged her hands up, Patty just laughing at the side as Kid's obsession is put on the spotlight. As said person hung his head with a rain cloud looming over his head, Shinigami could only watch as a sweat drop appeared. His gaze turned towards Lupin, who has yet to recover, but whether he did or not, he wasn't going anywhere tied up as Naruto had done. But that's when he took note. Naruto-kun, getting everybody's attention. Shinigami's block-like hands appeared as he pointed to Lupin's form. Why haven't you eaten the Kishin egg's soul yet? Naruto got nervous as he rubbed the back of his head. Sorry Chichiyu, but... Well. Shifting his foot slightly, I sort of destroyed some property and sewage tunnels trying to catch him. He embarrassingly told, as Shinigami understood and nodded. Ah, and so you knew you'd be punished and have the soul egg taken for the damage. Nodding his head as Naruto chuckled lightly. 3, 2, 1. Shinigami chop. Kid and Liz stepped back as somehow Shinigami delivered his signature attack despite being a light image, and struck Naruto atop his head, sending the poor boy crashing down onto the floor. Patty just laughed hysterically at this. Naruto-kun. This is the 3rd time you've done this, Shinigami began lecturing. You need to learn self-control when using your weapon. He watched as Naruto sat back up and rubbed his aching head, yet. Controlling that kind of power is definitely hard to do. To have defeated a Kishin egg using it without causing mass destruction does show an incredible amount of self-control. Despite his best efforts of minimizing the damage, he thought to himself, feeling quite proud of his son. But that didn't mean there wasn't room for more improvement. Standing up straight, this being a signal for the lot knowing Shinigami was in business mode, the group of 4 stood at attention. Now. As I was saying, your gathering of souls turned into eggs of the demon god is progressing nicely. But as a god of death, there's really no need for either of you two to gather souls or forge weapons. He stated, getting serious looks from both Kid and Naruto. I want to create my own perfect weapon, Kid stated, as Naruto continued, and we don't agree about having partners being handed to us. We both prefer to create bonds that can only be achieved through hard work. His statement getting nods of agreement from Kid and Liz, and a cheer from Patty.
Shinigami led off a small laugh. Having 2 weapons, your gathering of souls will be twice as fast, Kid-kun. Looking towards Naruto, and a power such as yours, you'll have no problem handling the more challenging of opponents, Naruto-kun. Now turning towards the entire group, Liz-chan, Patty-chan and Kasara-chan, good luck. This getting a simple wave and reply of, yup, from the 2 Thompson sisters, as well as a silent nod from a hidden weapon.
Kid had a smile on his face. I came here in the first place to try and gather a lot of souls at once. Looking up at his father, aren't there any good targets? He questioned. This getting a positive response from Shinigami. Well, if that's how you fell, I may have the perfect place. As the laughing image of the sun shined down on brand new day at Death City, students were scurrying about at Shibusen for a brand new day at school. Yawn. All except for one student that would have preferred staying home or train. Walking down the halls with his weapon were 2 students of Sid Barrett's classroom, Black Star and Tsubaki. Character info. Black Star is a young boy of Japanese descent and is 13 to 14 years of age. He has bright blue spiky hair, with the spikes sticking out in the manner of a star shape. He is rather short but has a well-muscled build due to constant training. His eyes are green, and when under the effects of madness, his eyes adopt star-shaped pupils, which is seemingly a distinct trait of those belonging to the clan of the star. His main outfit is a sleeveless black shirt with a funnel-like collar, with white trousers that are black from the knee down and just a little short of being full-length jeans. On the front of his collar, 2 short strips of gray material adorned with rivets stretch down from the top of the collar to the breast of his shirt. Black Star has similar strips wrapped around his neck in the form of a scarf, and around his waist in the form of a belt. Rivets can also be seen on his pockets and on the ends of his trousers. On his hand, he wears gray fingerless gloves with heavy wristweights and has a band going across the back of each hand, adorned with a star. Black Star's footwear are basic black boots with white tips, with a star shape visible on the toe of each boot. On his right shoulder is his star-shaped tattoo, showing his heritage as a member of the Star Clan, which is just a shade lighter than his normal skin tone. He is a person that pushes himself to the limit, and as he constantly says, to surpass a god. Tsubaki is a tall, and rather well-endowed, young woman of Japanese descent of around 15 or 16 years old. She wears a pale yellow, sleeveless outfit with a skirt end that has a slit down the side with a bright yellow star emblazoned on the right side of the chest. She also wears a dark brown scarf and a tight dark brown stocking on her right leg starting just above the knee and white boots. She wears a sash that looks similar to Black Star's gray riveted straps that wraps around her waist twice and hangs down diagonally from right to left. She has long black hair tied up in a ponytail and large indigo eyes. Occasionally, like when she is bathing or playing basketball, her ponytail and the strands of hair at the side of her face are tied up into loops. She wears gray and black bandages on her arms from the shoulder down, and wears a sweatband with a star symbol on it on each of her wrists. She highly compassionate and very understanding of others, which makes her the perfect weapon for Black Star, as his personality is hard to be compatible with of any person except her. End character info. As the two walked down the hallways, the two noticed a pair of familiar faces standing in front of the mission board. "What's going on?" Tsubaki asked as Black Star greeted their friends. "Oi, Soul, Macaw." The two mentioned people turned towards the voice. Seeing their friends, the girl Macaw greeted back. "Oh, morning." Character info. Macaw Albarn is of Japanese and Caucasian descent. She is fairly petite, being about 12 to 13 years of age. Her outfit is a typical schoolgirl outfit in a trench coat with a cloak-like end, that constantly alters its shape in various parts, a white blouse with a yellow sweater vest, a red plaid skirt, and black boots with white buckles. When using Soul, she usually wears white gloves. Her hair is ash blonde and always in pigtails, although there are certain times at her home where she will wear them in buns or straight down or sometimes styled on formal occasions. She has large olive green eyes. She is the daughter of Spirit, one of Shinigami's most trusted and powerful death sides. Soul Eater Evans, are just plain Soul, has white hair swept to one side, and red eyes. He is known for his heavily exaggerated facial expressions and pointed teeth. He naturally has a lazy, droopy, and somewhat uninterested expression on his face. He wears a yellow and black jacket with buttons going down the front. Around his head is a prominent sweatband that has a sticker with his name on and a round logo featuring a red-lipped mouth bearing pointed fangs surrounded with the letters EAT. He wears a pair of maroon pants and yellow and black sneakers with a pattern on the soles resembling his teeth. He is currently the only known scythe-style student in Shibusen, and not known to many. Is actually quite talented on the piano. End character info. "Good morning," Tsubaki replied, as Soul and Black Star gave each other a high five. This getting Tsubaki's curiosity going. "Did something happen?" she asked. "What, you don't know?" Soul questioned Tsubaki with a bit of surprise. "Everyone in Shibusen is talking about it." Black Star gave a hearty laugh. "Everyone's obviously getting impressed at my bigness." His statement getting looks from all three around him. "Wrong," Soul replied, pointing up at the board towards one of the taken missions. "Look at that." Black Star went quiet all of a sudden. "Hey, Black Star, don't you want to know?" Soul asked. "Just who's taking all the jobs?" Black Star's face went comically mad at this point. "Of course I want to know. Who care about the tasks, but this guy who has the nerve to upstage me is really pissing me off. Getting a smirk off Soul. Then let's do it. Black Star went bull crazy now, right? And just like that, the two went off running down the hallways towards the death room. Hey, hold on you two. Maka tried reasoning with the pair, but was unsuccessful. Tsubaki looked nervous instantly as Black Star went running off without her. Everyone else within the school just stared at the two as all that was left was their battle cries and a trail of dust. Flying through the skies on his transport, Beelzebub, while his brother flew next to him with what he dubbed Shinigami jets, which were a pair of black-like objects by his sides that propelled him into the air with jets of blue fire. Kid was remembering the mission details Shinigami gave them back at Death City before their departure. A pyramid in the sweltering country of Egypt. The ancient ruins of Anubis. Inside the pyramid is a necromancer witch who is resurrecting a great number of mummies buried there. Every night she takes the mummies on a march, and feeds them people's souls. Necromancers are pains, you know. They summon mummies, use them to attack humans, and in that way gain new minions. So her force is multiplying at a rapid rate. Shinigami. The pyramid Anubis, huh? Symmetry is the foundation of that type of architecture. Sounds good. Kid. Again with the symmetry. Do I have to bring back Mr. 4 Kid? Naruto? To be honest, I was going to leave it up to a 3-star master, Shinigami. Don't worry Chichiyu. Naruto, Kid coming back to reality, seeing the ruins plus a witch extermination. Time to go have some fun. He thought happily, as both he and Naruto propelled themselves downwards towards the ground. Both landed in front of a large triple-layered pyramid with an equally large white cat statue with red markings and yellow eyes that hung above the entrance, the cat on the second to third layer, while entrance was up the stairs from first to second layer. In front of the pyramid were 6 pillars, 3 on each side that stood symmetrically in front of each other as they led the way to the entrance. Landing down, Kid kicked up his skateboard Beelzebub to his hand and recalled it into himself, as Naruto did the same with his jets. Letting go of Patty and Liz, the two girls returned to their human forms as Kid admired the pyramid. Oh, what marvelous symmetry. This earning him a hit on the head by Naruto. Not now Kid, we have a job to do, K? Kid nodded, and so the 4 of them started their journey into the ancient structure that housed a witch and her minions. The technical school for Reaper Arms Masters. In short, the Shibusen, operating from the deepest recesses of all the corners of the world, in order to prevent the second coming of the demon god, who would bring about the destruction of all existence and envelop mankind within the spirals of madness. The Shinigami established this agency of weapons and those that would be trained to wield them. To put it bluntly, it's an organization of justice to protect peace, but why is it a trade school of all things? Well, who cares? Alright then, let's get all hyped up and read on. As Kid resummoned his skateboard, he took time to admire the pyramid. Oh, what marvelous symmetry. This earned him a hit on the courtesy of Naruto. Not now Kid, we have a job to do, K? Kid nodded as the souls of his partners took shape besides him. Stretching the kinks out of her back, staying as a weapon for too long kills my shoulders, Liz complained. Patty on the other hand, it's huge. Cheering happily as she looked up at the pyramid before them. Naruto nodded at Patty's point. It's still amazing how something this huge can be built by the workers of a civilization that did not have modern-day equipment for such heights and weights. He commented, getting a frown from Kid. The rulers of ancient Egypt used slaves to force them in building their pyramids. Or die. Not something I'd be proud of or admire in any sense if you ask me. Naruto gave him a deadpanned look. Way to kill the mood Kid. Patty giggled at the pair. Come on, let's go inside. She cheered before marching onwards into the construct. Wait, Patty, wait. Liz panicked before grabbing onto her little sister's shoulders and following behind her, nervously looking around. Kid gave an amused look towards Naruto. Seems Liz does not appreciate fine art. Naruto responded with a roll of his eyes. Come on Kid, let's go before Patty touches something she shouldn't, that'll get us all thrown into something else. Again, Kid nodded as the two brothers walked in. A dust cloud rolling in behind them. Awfully dusty though, Kid complained. As the group moved in, they took time to admire the interior. I really don't like the looks of this place. Liz whined. Oh, is the big bad gun girl of Brooklyn afraid of mummies? Liz-chan. Naruto teased, earning a glare from the elder Thompson. It's fine, let's go. Patty said to try and calm her sister down. Kid was at the back as he gazed around the ceiling and walls. The inside is marvelous, too. This got him deadpanned looks from Liz and Naruto. He has a one-track mind, was their simultaneous thought. Walking further into the pyramid, time passed before the team came across a problem. Crap, Naruto swore, as he looked at the 3 tunnels that split off. One to the left, one to the right, and the last straight ahead. Kid looked at all 3. It seems we need to split up if we're to find this witch. A nod from Naruto, a childish wonder from Patty, and a mild nervous breakdown from Liz. Liz, Patty. We'll head left. Naruto, you good for right? He asked. Yeah. I'm good. He hesitantly replied, but are you sure splitting up is a good idea for this place? This getting constant nods of agreement from Liz. Remember what Chichiyu said, that witch has a horde of minions at her call. We might be good, but this place doesn't have a lot of room for most of our abilities. Kid just waved the concern off. I'm sure we can handle it, Naruto. Chichiyu trusted us with this mission, so he knows we can handle it. Yeah. Come on, Nei-chan. Patty cheered, as she grabbed her sister by the arm and brought her along down the left tunnel. Kid followed behind, and Naruto could have sworn Kid's face went troubled just before he lost sight of his brother. Shrugging his shoulders, he turned right and went ahead. By the end of today, the world will have one less witch necromancer to worry about. I don't like this. I hate these kinds of places, Liz whined, as she hid behind her little sister. A random thought popping into mind. Sis, I have a question, Patty began. I was thinking, if you could go blind if you blink a lot, then everyone stopped blinking, what would happen? The complete randomness of the question helped Liz to change her worried outlook. Well, nobody would want to go blind, right? So when everyone's eyes dried up, eye drops would sell like crazy, she answered, all the while looking around. Then we'd better steal a whole bunch of eye drops. Patty thought out loud, getting Liz to stare at her sister and briefly question her sanity. But really, you can't go blind just from blinking, Liz said. Understanding shined in Patty's eyes. I guess not. You're so smart, sis. Liz just sighed at her sister's naive nature. Kid stopped, getting Liz's attention. What's wrong, Kid? A thought crossed her mind. You've been awfully quiet. Kid thought for a moment. No. It might just be my imagination. Turning around, but I can't help but thinking the frame in the foyer of my home is just a little off to the right. Who the hell cares about that now? Liz shouted, breaking Kid back into reality. I care. What should I do? It's like the world's gonna end. Grabbing his head as if in pain. Damn it. I need to go make sure. Saying with fear and panic in his eyes, he started walking back the way they came. Wait. Grabbing his shoulder, Liz's other hand grabbed onto Patty's and the two continued walking forward as she dragged the disgruntled Kid behind them. Keep your OCD in check. You can look at the frame or whatever after we get back. It's bugging me. It's bugging me too much, Kid. No, it's not. No, it's not. Liz, it's still bugging me, Kid. Shut up, you little brat. Liz's anger march stopped dead cold as she came face to face with a big ol' smiley face of a rather large mummy. Her cry for help came out loud, and echoed throughout the pyramid. Naruto stopped mid-step as he heard a cry echoing from the tunnel. What the? Was that Liz-chan? Groaning, he grabbed his head at the incoming headache. Great. What did Patty-chan do this time? A giggle replied inside his head at the remark. That girl sure knows how to have fun, Kid. Mayo. Why couldn't she come with us? She complained, bored out of her mind. In his mind. Sighing. You know as well as I do that Kid doesn't fight unless he has both Liz-chan and Patty-chan to wield, he commented, continuing his trek further down the dark tunnel, and besides. Isn't it better that we not run into any trouble before we find the witch than fighting an army of mummies? This getting a snort in response and a quiet, heck no. Naruto could only sigh again at his partner's thirst for battle. It wasn't that it was a bad thing, oh no, it was just that she always wanted to fight whenever they went on a mission, never something easy instead. Whether it be Kami's sense of humor, or Yami's grace of answering one of her children. But one of them had to have done this. Not 5 minutes later, Naruto walked straight inside a large room that housed a large behemoth of a statue. The statue was that of a black cat's head, red eyes and yellow markings around the ears to its snout, but the body, however, was that of a human female wearing garment from that of ancient Egypt. Its height is easily 10 to 12 meters tall, and its composition looked to be that of bedrock. Overall, there were 2 responses from this as the large cat statue stared down at Naruto's form. Shit, yay. Souls for the pharaoh. The loud screeching voice of the statue boomed, as it brought its foot up and slammed it on the ground where Naruto was not a moment ago stood. Mummies. Mummies, Patty. Liz screamed in fright as she hid behind her sister. The mummies made the first move, as they all either brought their hands up to the faces' mouths or spread in a welcoming manner. All the while giggling. Patty just stared at them with curiosity, while Liz composed herself a bit as she noticed that they hadn't been attacked yet. They're kinda cute. She timidly responded, as Patty mimicked them and brought her hand up to her mouth and giggled too. The face mask of the mummy Liz had confronted stared at her for a while, before blood poured out of the eyes and mouth as it opened its gaping hole and licked Liz's face from the chin up. This caused Liz to revert back to freaking out completely. It licked me, it licked me, it licked me, it licked me. She cried out, taking steps back while crossing her fingers and crossing her arms. Cooties, cooties, cooties. She continued crying out, as Patty just laughed. Teehee, yucky, yucky. Composing herself, her shoulders shook with anger. How dare you? Turning around, Patty, transform. This brought Patty to her side ready. Roger. Liz turned around towards Kid. Kid, let's go. That was when the two sisters made a discovery. Kid was missing. Huh, was Liz's response, and that was Patty's. The sound of a paper was heard, as the two looked up and noticed a note floating down to the ground. As it touched down on the ground, Liz and Patty leaned to read it. To Liz and Patty, it's been bugging me too much, so I've gone back for now. It's dark, so be sure to watch your step. Death the Kid, now way. Liz panicked, as the mummies chose now to attack while they were distracted.
Sensing them coming, Liz went into game mode. Patty. Right. Patty did a somersault backwards as her form went bright and she changed back into her gun form. Grabbing the gun, Liz let out a series of shots that quickly demolished the mummy's wrappings and destroyed it as its Kishin egg soul went flying out. In retaliation, the other enemies chose to strike from a distance and let their wrapped-up arms to fly out in an attempt at nabbing the gun-ho woman. Stay back. Thinking quickly, Liz jumped back as she changed into her gun form, as Patty reverted back in her human form and caught her sister with a twirl of her fingers. As a nearby mummy attempted to lunge at her with its mouth open, Patty stuck the Liz gun in it, stopping the thing in its track. Hey, don't stick me in their mouths. Patty sheepishly replied, as she shot the mummy point blank, while avoiding the one that came behind her.
Doing another back flip, Patty changed back into her gun as Liz reverted back and caught her sister. The mummies fumbled forward on top of each other as Liz pointed the Patty gun at their backs and shot. As their fight escalated, deep within the pyramid past numerous twists and turns that delved deeper and deeper into the ancient structure. A ritual was taking place as the mastermind witch behind the resurrected mummies chanted for a new minion. Her get-up was that of a black tattered robe, black leggings that ended just before her pointy-ended boots. To top off her get-up, was the typical witch's signature hat, a wide brim hat with a pointed top, yet this had an extra feature, it had a mouth. Weird. Heart within my body. Heart within my mind. Pharaoh. Awaken. She finished chanting, as the 6 Kishin eggs that surrounded her raced up and flew straight into the large sarcophagus that stood majestically behind her. The Kishin eggs did their work, as the witch's magic took effect, awakening the ancient pharaoh. Pharaoh's wrath. It boomed darkly, as its sarcophagus opened up, revealing a single demonic eye glaring out into the outside world. From within the darkness, a mummified arm stretched out and grabbed onto the witch's head, dragging it into its coffin. Ack! It grabbed me. The necromancer yelled, "It's picking me up. It's gonna eat me." She panicked, kicking and screaming as she was dragged into the darkness of the coffin, where it closed behind her. The sounds of crushing bones echoed throughout the pharaoh's chamber, signaling the death of the witch. Play with the souls of my people. Its booming voice spoke, as blood poured out of the sarcophagus's carved left eye, and you will feel the pharaoh's wrath. Back at Shibusan Academy, Maka and Tsubaki were left behind in their classroom as they sighed at wondering the troubles their respective partners were up to. Where in the world did those two go? Maka wondered out loudly, Tsubaki merely agreeing with her female friend. Speaking of the two idiots, they were seen racing across Shibusan in search for answers. First stop was Death's room, the place where Shinigami can usually be found. Nobody answered the door. Next stop was just outside the academy, where the man known as Spirit, Maka's father, was relaxing outside, All they got was him waving them away. Next was the reception desk. But the lady there didn't know their answer either. They were feeling defeated, but kept persisting. Meanwhile, at Kid's home, Kid had just finished measuring the frame at his foyer, and to his delight it was just perfect. I guess it really was my imagination. Magnificent. Turning around proudly, knowing it was all in his head, well, Liz and Patty are waiting. I'll head back. Stomping on the remains of a cat head made of stone, Naruto swallowed down the last of the Kishin eggs down his throat. Surprisingly, the statue held 4 inside of its body. It would explain why it was more intellectual and tougher than most enemies, as they only have 1 inside them. Belch. Damn. Never get used to how they go down so smoothly, Naruto commented, mostly to himself. Even weirder, they have no taste, I swear. Almost like eating air if it was somehow solid. Grumbling about waste of time, he continued his walk through the now opened gate at the other end of the room, hoping to whatever god up there that liked him, they wouldn't run into any more hold-ups. Mayo, that was too easy, the voice in his head complained, getting a snort from Naruto. Oh, don't be like that, Naru-kun, the voice responded smoothly, you know you like it rough too. Okay. Ignoring the voice in my head, he quickly said, getting a childish, hey, at the jab, time for us to nab us a witch. A Kishin egg floated down, as it went into the bullet cartridge of Patty's gun form. Well, we just recovered all the mummy's souls. Liz said, as Patty quickly changed back as Liz locked the cartridge. You split them exactly in half, right? She asked Patty. The younger of the two nodded at that. Yup. If they're not even, Kid will get depressed, huh? The two went silent as Patty curiously looked forward, while Liz wrapped her arms around herself. I'm getting chills. And now there's a weird voice coming from back there. Liz whined, but Patty wasn't affected. I wonder what it is. She wondered. Let's go. Patty merrily said before walking off. Liz behind getting more nervous. No. Let's wait for Kid to get back. This didn't stop her little sister. We'll be fine. You're with me, sis. Walking off, she didn't notice the look of defeat, distress, hopelessness and complete and utter freaking out on Liz's face. No way. Time passed, and the two sisters found themselves heading further and further down into the pyramid. Coming upon some stairs that were heading down, they noticed the noises were getting louder and light was coming from ahead. I think it's coming from in here, Liz said, as she walked behind her little sister as protection. Softly now, softly. Getting a Roger, Roger, from Patty. Stop making that damn noise. Patty made her scary face, as she demanded the sarcophagus that they found inside the chamber, completely forgetting her sister's worry. Liz's world went crumpling down at seeing her sister demanding the large coffin in front of them. You're making your big sister cry. I'm the leftovers. A disembodied voice spoke behind Liz, and as she turned around, she saw the bloody hand of what could only have been from the witch herself, and a trail of blood behind the dismembered hand that led back to the coffin. Letting out a loud scream, it seemed to have provoked the pharaoh as wrappings soon shot out from within and down towards the two sisters. Meanwhile, back at Shibusen, Soul and Black Star seemed to have found a lead, as they came across one of Shibusen's teachers, Sid Barrett. Character info. Sid Barrett, staff member of Shibusen Academy. He is a muscular build, dark-skinned man with braided hair and black Japanese tattoos on both arms. The kanji contained within these tattoos, present on Sid's shoulders, stand for death. He also wears a headband that has the writing meaning whole. He is a well-polite individual, who along with Stein, have proven to be a formidable fighter, especially with his army-style weapons. This data of information also shows the man having military training, as he is well versed in guerrilla warfare and tactical contact. He is a man of his word, as he plays by his way by claiming that it is the kind of man that he is. End character info. What's up with you guys? Sid asked, seeing two of Shibusen students behind him exhausted. The bell for class already rang. Black Star was able to compose himself to respond, as Soul needed more time. Don't you have students too? So where are you going? Sid just smiled at Black Star. I have some business to take care of. I may not look it, but I'm a busy man. Before you go, we have a little problem we need to ask you about. Soul commented, after catching his breath. Who took the job at the ruins of Anubis? Black Star finished for Soul. Now Sid was interested. Ah. Well, that wasn't one of my students. I'd think that would be a little too heavy for a student anyways. Now Black Star's attention was caught. Then who was it? His response was a grinning face to adorn on Sid's mug, the sons of Shinigami. The Shinigami. Black Star repeated slowly, as Soul was too processing what he heard. Sons? Are you serious? Sid turned around to face the two. I have no need to lie, he spoke completely serious. The sons of Shinigami. Their names are Death the Kid and Naruto Uzumaki Death. We meet again, Anubis. Kid spoke warmly, as his skateboard, Beelzebub, touched down in front of the entrance once more, as magnificent as always, I see. Using his board, he skated into the pyramid in search of his partners. All seemed clear for him, but it wasn't long before something did appear. A small round ball. It looked like some kind of animal. With 3 black circles on it, 2 on the head like ears, and 1 where its stomach would be, 2 bitty red eyes, a button nose and a cat-like mouth. The sideway, 3, mouth. Seeing the ball, Kid stopped his board as he knelt down to pick it up. Picking it up, he had a look of love struck as he viewed the perfect symmetrical object. What amazing symmetry. Lifting it up higher, magnificent. Wait. The love-stricken face gone, replaced by irritation. Taking a closer look, he spotted imperfection. The ball creature thing had 3 eyebrow lashes on the right eye, but 4 on the left. You disgust me, he roared, before kicking the offending ball away. Skating forward, completely ignoring the destroyed ball creature. How completely vile. Liz. Patty. Calling out for his partners to respond, hoping to find them quicker. Kid. Liz's voice responded back, almost exhaustingly. Almost seductively. Patty next to her as the wraps from the pharaoh constricted more around her form, pushing her breasts up, while wrapping around Liz's bottom. Whether by accident or in the pharaoh's own perverted method. Pushing Liz's pants lower, exposing a bit of her panties. Kid had just arrived in time to stop dead at the scene before him, his jaw lowering as his brain tried to register what was happening. The scene of both Patty and Liz hung up with wraps, as the wraps themselves seemed to constrict and seemingly pulling on their clothes. Sorry. Looks like I'm interrupting, was Kid's immediate response, as he turned around and made his move to leave as quickly as possible. Wait. Liz panicked, her shouts provoking the pharaoh once more, as the wrappings quickly twirled around themselves into drill-like weapons and launched at Kid. Sensing the attack, Kid turned and flipped into the air, using his board as a shield and disintegrating the wrappings. What the hell is this thing? Kid commented as he gazed at the sarcophagus. It's about god freaking bloody time. A shout came from the chamber's entrance, as Kid, Patty and Liz turned and spotted Naruto coming in. I had to fight 4 obelisks and a room full of mummies before I even found this damn room. Do you know how annoying that is? Naruto reacted fast, as spear-like wraps came directly for him. A shine came from his right arm, and in an instant, the wrappings were all shredded in a protective wall of wind. Out of the light, came what one can only describe as a demonic-looking black with white lining arm gauntlet that reached from his fingers up to his shoulder. Well, Naruto sing-song as he gazed at the battle-ready sarcophagus. It seems we arrived just in time for the party. Bringing his arm downwards fast, it erupted in blue flames, yet it did not burn even his clothes as it fluttered beside it. Shall we dance, your majesty? The technical school for Reaper Arms Masters. In short, the Shibusen, operating from the deepest recesses of all the corners of the world, in order to prevent the second coming of the demon god, who would bring about the destruction of all existence and envelop mankind within the spirals of madness. The Shinigami established this agency of weapons and those that would be trained to wield them. To put it bluntly, it's an organization of justice to protect peace, but why is it a trade school of all things? Well, who cares? Alright then, let's get all hyped up and read on. Bringing his arm downwards fast, Naruto's arm erupted in blue flames, yet it did not burn even his clothes as it fluttered beside it. Shall we dance, your majesty? He taunted the sarcophagus, giving Kid some time to prepare himself. You too, hurry and transform into Gun, he said, never taking his eyes off the coffin. We can't, Liz spoke tiredly. These bandages are sapping all our power. She explained, as Kid became slightly shocked and worried at the info. What? Kicking up his board into the air, tornado flip, he announced, as he pushed his board forwards into a spin and cutting the wraps that held Liz and Patty up, thus freeing them. As Kid was preparing his weapons, Naruto was busy fighting off the Kishin egg. Come on, big boy, you can do better than that, right? He taunted, flipping over numerous drill wraps while igniting them with his blue flame-coated gauntlet. This getting a roar of pain from within the sarcophagus. Oh ho. Afraid of little ol' fire, eh? He questioned, but knew the answer already. He just did it to piss of the mummy man some more. His Shinigami jets came to life, as he propelled into the air to avoid a barrage of spear strikes that crashed where he stood moments ago, leaving behind a large crater that showed this Kishin egg's strength. Yikes. That's stronger than the obelisk's. Looking at the coffin while in the air, how many eggs did that witch feed it? I can sense he is stronger than those pathetic statues, Kit, Kasara commented, as she changed her form from a fiery gauntlet into one covered in pure lightning. Its form singing like 1,000 birds screeching in the area. Finally. Some real action. Yippee. Ignoring the cheerful soul within him, Naruto dodged an aerial strike from the pharaoh's wrappings before retaliating with his electrified arm. Have a little taste of lightning, you wrapped up freak. His jets bursting with power as it propelled Naruto straight towards the coffin, his arm tearing through the wrappings that tried to stop him. Sensing the danger, the pharaoh brought a large number of wrappings together to form a thick wall. Striking dead on, Naruto only had a second to see that it made only a slight tear into it along with charred remains before flying back to avoid the sharp spikes of wraps that protruded from the wall. Oh come on. Naruto complained. How can lightning be stopped by a wall of wrappings? Face the wrath of the pharaoh, the voice boomed, before its wraps burst off into different directions, intending of striking the flying boy one way or another. Shit. Having room to fly, Naruto used speed to avoid the hail of spears, drills, punches and wraps that tried to strike him. Damn it. I can't keep this up. How long it takes just to get your partners ready, I mean seriously. Don't know Naru-kun, but you're right, Kasara replied, agreeing with his statement about keeping up. Since you're limiting yourself here to avoid damaging anything, we can't use more power to beat this Kishin egg. Avoiding a strike that narrowly missed his neck, only cutting it slightly, he propelled himself away, getting some distance away from the coffin, hoping to catch his breath. Any ideas, Kasara? He asked. Kasara, noticing the lack of suffix in her name, she knew that Naruto was being serious. All I can say, Naruto, is that kid better wake the hell up soon. She ranted. He may not have power like us, but he has enough control over his abilities to deal with this annoying old king without destroying anything. Hopefully. Quietly thinking the last part. Wrath. 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 The pharaoh chanted, as more and more wrappings seemed to seep out of his coffin, waving around behind and in front of him. The wraps seemingly dancing beautifully, yet deadly mixed in one. Oh. This can't be good, looking at form of kid standing in front of the coffin they were currently trying to survive. Anytime, kid. Naruto yelled out, jumping backwards to avoid a wave of fist-shaped wraps that rained down on top of him, crashing into the ground and kicking up dust. Alright. Liz cheered, NS form. Patty exclaimed, as both sisters glowed and took their gun forms for Kid. Gripping them in his usual upside-down way, with his pinky finger on the trigger, Kid took aim. The soul of the pharaoh, huh? Getting a grunt from inside the coffin, here we go. Raising his guns up ready to shoot, he froze. In that instant, the pharaoh took the chance and struck Kid dead on with two powered-up wrap fists under the chin. This caused Kid to stumble backwards a bit, but he held his ground. Hey, Kid. Are you okay? Liz called out, seeing their wielder taking a strong double punch. Kid just leaned forward with shock and discourage in his face. Taking another cheap shot, the pharaoh did a powerful underswing and struck Kid in the stomach, followed by a hit to his cheek sending the boy into the air, followed by another strike while in midair. Kid fell down to the ground, seemingly defeated. What are you doing, Kid? This isn't like you. Liz yelled out, trying to get Kid to respond. Struggling to stand, look closely at him. Kid said, holding his front in pain. He's gazing at the sarcophagus, perfectly symmetrical. Huh. Came the dumbfound replies from both Liz and Naruto, the later cursing as he avoided another wave of wraps that took the forms of spears this time, each strike narrowly missing his body, hitting the ground as he flew around them. God damn it, Kid. Naruto started yelling, if I get out of this alive, I'm bringing back Mr. 4 and locking you in a room with him. You hear me? Taking the opening Kid had presented him, as the boy refused to shoot, a wrap took form of a blade and with a quick strike, it stabbed Kid, bringing him down to his knees. Who gives a damn about symmetry right now? Liz screamed out, Fear evident as more wraps twirled around and formed drills once more. You're about to get killed. The drills closing off and started spinning rapidly. Aren't you going to use us and become a perfect Shinigami? It's pointless, was Kid's only reply, seeing as he couldn't fight against something of perfect symmetry. The drills came down fast towards the downed boy, aiming at ending his life. Shit. Naruto-kun. Liz screamed out for help. Boom. A wall of earth erected in front of Kid, as Naruto knelt in front of him with his gauntlet arm plunged into the ground. Shit. Kid. Wake up already. I need help. Crack. Looking up in shock, he didn't have time to dodge as the drills broke through his defense and struck Naruto's body in multiple places, getting his blood flying everywhere as he flew past Kid. Naruto-kun. Oni-chan. Naru-kun. Came the respective cries from Liz, Patty and Kasara, as they watched Naruto's body crash into the ground a few meters away from Kid's still kneeling form. Kid. Kid-kun. Liz and Patty cried out, trying to snap him awake from his OCD trance. Wake up. Pharaoh's wrath. The coffin boomed, as his wrappings once again took form, but this time as a giant mallet. Wrath. Wrath. Bang. Striking at the downed body of Naruto, he didn't have the strength to get up at the moment. Still recovering from the strike he got defending Kid. Wrath. Bang. 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 The pharaoh's voice chanted out, with each strike he made at Naruto's body, making his wounds even worse. Kid. Wake up. Liz tried again at snapping Kid out. Naruto-kun is going to die. You have to snap out of it. The pharaoh's strikes halting as the giant of a coffin slowly opened to reveal the darkness inside. A large hand reached out and gripped onto the coffin as it pulled out its body. I will finish you both myself. A large mummy, even larger than the obelisks that Naruto fought, came out of the coffin, its body completely inhuman. Its right arm nothing more than a giant cylindrical block, a royal-looking garment wrapped around its torso, no legs to stand, its left arm being mildly human, while its face was composed of ornaments and decorations. Two fan-like appendages on either side of its head, one shorter than the other, a round neck brace of some kind with 3 spikes going downwards diagonally, just below the larger of the 2 fan appendages, its face completely white with only one black eye, the left, with a small dot for a pupil, a candy cane-like object in its mouth, and a small button-like item on the middle of its forehead that had a face of a zigzag mouth and 2 dots for eyes. On its back seemed to be a single black head of something or someone. A white mask with a line straight down the middle, a V-type smile, 2 red eyes and a black cowl over its head. Kid sat there staring at the monolith of a mummy. Right. Left. Right. Left. Right. He spoke to himself, as the mummy took one staggering step towards Kid. Breathing slowly, his face contorted into one of pure anger. That really pisses me off. I guess it's over, Liz stated contently, as Patty just laughed at the pharaoh's misfortune, both relieved that Kid finally snapped out of it, and both hoping that Naruto was alright with Kasara now having time to heal his wounds. What's with you? Kid said slowly, you're totally uneven. Standing up shakily. This is the first time I've seen anything so uneven. Where are you from? Are you a native of Uneven Island? Putting his guns up, as he took aim, you disgust me. Besides from that part on your forehead. Taking a shot at the larger fan decoration. Hideous. That decoration is worthless. Getting angrier at the pharaoh. Are you from worthless are us? Hideous. Shotting rapidly. Kid's shots started taking the pharaoh apart bit by bit as he chanted, hideous, over and over again. His shots were done with precision as it pushed the pharaoh back further away from him, as it tore its body apart. You're completely hideous. That last yell pushed Kid past his limit, as his final shot was a large beam of energy that disintegrated the pharaoh apart and blowing a large gaping hole straight through out of the pyramid and out from the back. The beam coming out of a large ghastly-looking black skull, as the beam itself seemed to shoot from its mouth. Smoke slowly lifted away thanks to the new opening, as Kid gaze went down to the only thing that remained of the pharaoh. The Kishin egg soul, you don't deserve to exist. Well shit. Naruto grumbled, having recovered enough from the beatdown to push himself to stand. Guess I lost this round. Kasara-chan. His words getting a sigh in relief from his partner, as she had worried for her wielder and worked double time in healing him during the attacks. The number of souls we got today was an odd number, so you have one extra Naruto-kun. Liz spoke, as the group made their ways away from the pyramid under the laughing sun. Damn it, that's annoying. Kid grumbled, hating anything odd. This got an eye roll from Naruto, but despite that he thanked Liz for the generous gift. Let's keep going, Kid said, taking lead. Oka, why? Patty, always the cheerful one, agreed wholeheartedly. And what the hell was up with that pharaoh? Kid muttered to himself angrily, his unevenness was horrible. Oh, give it a break, kid, Naruto said, getting slightly irritated. Mostly because he couldn't get the final shot in ending that Kishinegai, the big mummy is gone, its unevenness will no longer plague this world, he finished off sarcastically dramatically, getting a laugh from Patty, a sigh from Liz and a smile from Kid. At any rate, this is our final farewell to the beautiful Anubis, Kid said almost sadly, as the group turned around to gaze one last time at the ancient pyramid they had to battle only just recently. Crack. A large crack appeared on the decorative cat that hung above the entrance. The crack grew as it trekked up and down along the pyramid. In only a few seconds later, as the cracks appeared, the pyramid came crashing down upon itself. Kid froze dead at the sight. Naruto just had a twitching eyebrow and slightly lowered jaw. Patty was laughing loudly while waving her arms at the sight. And Liz. She was the only calm one of the bunch. It's demolished. Awesome. Patty cheered. The twitch in Naruto's eyes worsening. How could this happen? Kid spoke slowly, trying to understand what had happened. It's because you went so overboard. Huh, Liz replied, seemingly unaffected by the whole ordeal. Most likely due to being scared witless inside that structure that she found it as poetic justice? Oh, come on. Not again. Naruto screamed out. I wasn't even the one to do it this time. His words getting a deadpanned look from Liz. He can't be seriously angry he didn't cause that. Can he? She questioned his sanity. Maybe he was worse than her sister. I'm nothing but a worthless pig. Kid's defeated voice sounded off, a sign that he went into his depressed world once more. I'm a piece of garbage. And now Anubis is garbage, too. Damn it. I deserve to die. He pounded weakly at the ground. Liz and Patty went to work in trying to cheer Kid back up, leaving Naruto to fume and rant off by himself. Don't get so down. I'm sure there are lots of people who've destroyed a pyramid of two. Liz said, as Patty patted Kid's back. Yup. Kid looked up with gratitude and hope in his eyes. You guys. Unfortunately, he had a clear view of their chests from the angle he was in, quickly making him irritated. Why the hell are your chests different sizes? He hollered loudly as he jumped into the air, getting a laugh from Patty, a sweat drop from Liz, and a facepalm from Naruto. Will you give their breasts a rest, bro? Back at Death City, Kid and Naruto finds themselves reporting in at Shinigami's room. But weren't receiving any rewards, however. As punishment for destroying the pyramid. I'll be confiscating all of your gathered souls, the specter of death stated to his sons. Naruto could only sigh and hang his head in defeat, a rain cloud forming above him, while Kid knelt down to the ground pounding it as depression struck him again. Damn it. I'm worthless. I should die. Bang. Kid's head was driven down into the ground, as he went into the world of bliss. Wish granted, bro, Naruto mumbled. Shinigami just stood there, his reflection shining off the mirror, as he could only sweat drop at his two sons' actions. Maybe giving them the Anubis mission was a bad idea. A reminder popped into Shinigami's head. Naruto-kun, getting his adopted son's attention. A large block-like white hand appeared under Shinigami as he scratched his head in worry. There's something I forgot to mention, laughing nervously as his son made a questioning gaze. Meanwhile, back at Shibusen, Black Star and Soul were currently glaring at the mission board. More specifically, at the Anubis tag, that was stamped, completed, both irritated that neither one could have done it, and also that it was done in less than a day. Especially when Sid said that it was one he wouldn't even recommend to any of his students, meaning it was harder than the average mission. Both idiots turned to one another, seemingly speaking through their eyes. A nod between the two, as they both agreed on one thing and one thing only. We're kicking their asses when we see them. I am such a cute and wonderful lady. A sing-song feminine voice sang at the home of Macaw Albarn. Said singer was currently taking a relaxing bubble bath at the home of her killer, not even a few days ago. Making a come here motion with her fingers, now for my back. Her words seeming to command the very brush that was cleaning her legs to float up and towards her back. But, I so love my pumpkins, she continued her singing, as the brush went to work on her back and her impressive bust pushing against the bathtub she was using. Pumpumpukin pumpukin. That is my magic. Character info. Blair the cat, mistaken constantly a being of a witch origin. Her appearance is that of a young tall sexy woman with a large bust size and alluring figure. She has long violet hair and a strand of her hair on each side of her face curl up and around to resemble her tail, and the bauble she wears in cat form can be seen below her neck. She has a set of purple cat-like ears with a pink tip instead of human ears, which are initially hidden by her hat. She also has a curled-up purple cat tail that resembles her cat form one. Her lips are curled like the shape of a 3 number to represent those of a cat. She also has 2 little sharp fangs in her mouth in human form like cats. Her attire is that of a black witch's hat that coils around at the end and retains her bright yellow cat eyes. She dresses in many types of revealing clothing such as tank tops and bikinis, but her signature witch outfit consists of a black-blue dress that shows off her shoulders and wraps around her neck, long sleeves that reveal her hands and shoulders, a short skirt with a white frill and long high-heeled boots that curl upwards at the toes. In cat form, she is basically a black cat with large yellow eyes, ears with pale bushy tips and a long curly tail, but she wears a smaller version of her witch's hat and a collar with a round bauble that has 3 triangles etched into it to resemble a jack-o'-lantern's face. Her signature abilities all revolved around jack-o'-lanterns, yet despite the silliness of such abilities, she has proven to be a formidable foe as she faced off against Macaw Albarn and clearly won, despite the trickery of Macaw's partner Sol Evans. End character info. NYA. Blair meowed, having finished scrubbing her back and laid back to relax in the tub as she played with the rubber duck she had with her. Blair misses her foxy koi. NYA, whining to herself. It had been an adventurous week for the young magical cat. Not a few days ago, her home, as well as her loves sometimes, was broken into by Macaw and Sol in an attempt at claiming her soul, claiming her of being a witch to boot. In the end, she blew those two away every time they encountered. It wasn't until Sol played a sneaky role of seeming to betray Macaw and partner up with Blair as she wanted to play with the Scythe Boy due to his transformation. Falling under the play, Sol and Macaw were able to land a killing blow on the Catwoman and had her soul eaten by Sol. Too bad no one told them she wasn't a witch, just a cat with magical powers. So in the end, Sol and Macaw were punished and had to start collecting souls all over again, and Blair's home got destroyed in the confrontation, so she decided to stay with Macaw and Sol as repayments of sorts. It was also a bonus that she could tease Sol constantly and watch as the cool guy kept blowing away with nosebleeds. What? NYA, staring out the window as a loud angry yell was heard throughout Death City. A smile on Blair's face grew at recognizing the voice. Foxy Koi's back. NYA, cheering happily, she jumped out of the tub and magically called her clothes to appear as her body dried up thanks to her magic. NYA, Foxy Koi is back. Blair's gonna make some ramen. For Blair's Foxy Koi, singing merrily, she skipped into Macaw's kitchen to prepare her love's favorite dish. Blair hopes Foxy Koi doesn't hurt Macaw-chan and Sol-kun. She thought briefly, but mentally waved it away. Foxy Koi won't hurt Blair's new friends, so no worries. Skipping happily around the kitchen, she went to prepare the one dish she perfected for years just for her special love. Soul Eater Evans. You're dead, you hear me? Blair had a sweat drop rolling down her head. Okay. Maybe Foxy Koi will hurt one of Blair's new friends. The entire school of Shibusan froze at the yell followed by the death threat to one Soul Eater Evans. Many sparing a pity glance at the poor bloke that seemingly brought about his death in the nearby future. Said person was currently head first into the ground courtesy of a Macaw chop, with his partner Macaw scolding him. Baka. Who did you piss off this time? I don't know. Sol defended himself, pushing up from the ground. And god damn it, woman. Stop using that book of yours. He tuned out his partner as she started ranting off once more. Sol took the time to stare off at the direction the yell came from. This is so not cool. The technical school for Reaper Arms Masters. In short, the Shibusan, operating from the deepest recesses of all the corners of the world, in order to prevent the second coming of the demon god, who would bring about the destruction of all existence and envelop mankind within the spirals of madness. The Shinigami established this agency of weapons and those that would be trained to wield them. To put it bluntly, it's an organization of justice to protect peace, but why is it a trade school of all things? Well, who cares? Alright then, Let's get all hyped up and read on. The ringing of the cathedral bell chimes in the misty night. Its song seemingly calling forth for heaven's guidance for the lost souls. Or is it hell, luring the innocents to their deaths? The latter being the case, as this particular home of God houses a priest that lures the people, the flock of God, to their ends so that he may feast. Inside the vast emptiness of the cathedral, the lights from outside illuminates the inside with a display of colors. The stained glass windows that tell tales of the word of the Lord, ever crystal and clear as the moonlight behind them shines down upon them. Ever still, never ending. Crash. A large robed man of a figure crashes through the main window of the cathedral. Its multiples of colored shards flying in the air, seeming to dance as the unholy person is sent flying by the symbol of death itself. A scythe. Crashing to the floor heavily, the scythe carrier uses the unholy man's body as a springboard and jumps back a distance to face down the Kishineг. Dark Priest Rasputin. The distorted voice of Soul Evans speaking, as the revealed scythe wielder Macaw Albarn stood in a stance and ready for any aggressive movement from the priest. Your soul is ours. Give it up, Rasputin remarked, standing at full attention in front of his would-be executioners. Standing tall, the man could be easily described as a large man in both terms of height and weight. Be it from fat or muscle is unclear, as his black monk robe covers him from neck to feet. He is a bald man, wearing what appears as a Jewish cap, a large set of rosary beads, pupil-less eyes, and to top it off was the weirdest feature of the man. He had a thick long white beard, where at the end was shaped to resemble that of the Holy Cross. My body is immune to bullets. Not anticipating his opponent's skills, he quickly found himself with a blade in his back and Macaw in front of him. Before even able to understand what had happened, with a great show of strength, Macaw brought the blade through Rasputin, thus ending him. As his body twisted black and into threats, it started to wrap onto itself tightly before seemingly disappearing, leaving behind the glowing red orb that is a Kishineг soul. Softly placing his hand on the ground, as Macaw lets Soul get closer to the descending soul of Rasputin, the upper torso of Soul stares at the thing that caused them some trouble. I dunno about how many bullets you've taken, but I'll be taking your soul, turned into an egg of the demon god. Leaning forward, he opens his mouth of sharp teeth and using his tongue, scoops the soul and eats it, not paying attention to the slowly increasing sound that invaded the atmosphere. Ing the ever-laughing sun present on the morning sky shines down on a brand new day in Death City. The constant ringing of an alarm clock, however, bash, bang, crash, woke up a very sleepy demon scythe from a wonderful dream. Something about a monk. Souls are so delicious. Half dead and half asleep, he mumbles to himself, all the while unaware of a presence making her way up his sleeping body. Cool days. And of course, cool mornings. This particular morning suited someone as cool as me. Soul-kun. A feminine voice spoke, as he felt a crushing weight being dropped on his stomach. It wasn't heavy per se, but very squishy. Looking down groggily, he makes out the image of Blair's grinning face. It's time to wake up. It only took a second to wake up, seeing as how Blair was on top of him. Thank whatever, cool, God up there that was blessing him. Still in her clothes, Blair. Scrambling backwards, Soul tried to get away from the Catwoman before something happened. And with Blair around him, something always happens. Her grin turning feral-like, as she slowly followed him upwards. Are you no? She said seductively. Completely oblivious to her partner's trouble in his room. Or in fact of anything at this moment. Macaw was currently in the kitchen preparing breakfast for her roommate and herself. Good. All done. At this point in time, Soul was currently fighting off the biggest threat to his health. A pair of sisters that were now currently suffocating him. If there were a god up there watching over him, he believed at this moment he was a perverted one for thinking up of such a way for a person to die. Death by suffocation of breasts. You could stay here and have some fun with me. Blair teased at Soul, loving how frustrated he gets so easily. As he continued his futile attempt at escaping the terrible twins of death, he heard the uncanny sound of his door opening. And even worse was the voice of Macaw. He was dead. Soul. It's time to go to school. Hurry and come eat breakfast. Letting the boy catch a breather, Blair turned to the newcomer. Morning, Macaw. The cry of a rooster echoing the now silent room. Soul's face went south, pale and blue as he could literally feel death's hand coming for him at this very moment, this morning. This love comedy. He thought dreadfully, knowing what was going to happen soon. Soul. Makaw's monotonous voice said softly. There. He knew it. He's dead. Damn you Blair and your perverted innocence. Damn you whichever god is up there playing his life like a comedy show. Damn you creator of humans for giving females that ungodly inhuman female fury and strength. You baka. And damn you DMWA for giving them an apartment room that was on the second floor. With a kick and shout, Makaw had sent her partner through his bedroom window and flying off into the streets, blood pouring out of his nose from the brutal upkick and strength of an angry woman. This ain't cool at all. Time passed, and in the classroom, class crescent room, we find the two partners quietly sitting down and waiting for class to start. Soul, having recovered from his match with female fury, sat a little bit away from his wielder, as Makaw herself was quietly reading a book in an attempt to drown out her thoughts. Getting a little tired from the silence between the two, Soul decided to break it. And it just so happened, he knew how. Hey, Makaw. Be quiet. I'm reading my book. Don't interrupt me. Makaw's monotonous voice replied. Yep. She was still pissed. Getting mildly irritated. Why are you so mad? Bookworm, he said absent-mindedly, not seeing how the bookworm comment made her twitch. Closing the book carefully, she grasped it tightly with her left hand. Makaw. Chop. One solid strike to the head effectively KO'd her partner, as it left behind the smoking impact upon his head from where she struck. So what were you going to say? She asked, almost as if what she had done was a regular occurrence. Which sadly enough to say, is. Just something I heard earlier. Soul muttered, slightly wincing at his throbbing head, our old teacher. What was it? He died, right? He stated, as he turned and eyed her, the goddess of freedom stabbed him through the forehead. Sid Sensei, right? Makaw clarified, the goddess forehead incident. What about it? Did you hear that a student here at Shibusen has been chased after recently by some weirdo? Soul questioned her, noticing he was getting her attention more. Someone in the class next to us got the crap kicked out of him. And all the guys that saw the criminal say they saw the same thing. There, he had her attention. He was a zombie with a gaping hole in his forehead, he proclaimed creepily, the sudden stunt causing Makaw to scream in terror. Chop. That terror leaving quickly as she brought Soul down once more with a good ol' Makaw chop strike. You didn't have to hit me, was the weak reply. So you're saying it was Sid Sensei? No way, Makaw stated, ignoring her partner's pain, it's just something someone made up. The sound of the classroom door opening alerted the whole room of their teacher entering. All right, quiet. Class is starting, spoke a male's voice, getting a twitch from Makaw. Attendance is a pain, so I won't take it. But I will say this, the now clear red-headed, black suit-wearing man stood next to the teacher's desk. The bell does not dismiss you. I dismiss you. This getting a lot of the students in the classroom ing at the new teacher's bravado. Character info. Death Scythe, formerly Spirit, is Shinigami-sama's current weapon and Makaw's father. His birth name is Spirit Albarn. His daughter Makaw shares his surname. It is unknown if his ex-wife Kami took the name. Spirit is a somewhat younger-aged man, being only around the age of 18 when Makaw was born. It is rational to say that he is 31 or 32. His facial features consist of red shoulder-length hair and blue eyes. He wears a basic black suit blazer, black dress slacks, an olive green button-down, which remains tucked in, a black leather belt with a silver buckle and dress shoes. The most iconic element of his clothing is his signature black cross tie. Also, on the collar of his button-down, there are two black crosses on each side. Spirit is a former student of Shibusen, as like any other Meister or weapon that graduates from there, and has had the honor of working with not only one Meister, but two. One being his close friend during his school days, Frankenstein, and the other being the woman he fell in love with, married, and had a child with. But soon became his ex-wife, Kami. The reason behind that is due to Spirit's inhuman flirtatious personality. No matter how hard he tries, he seemingly cannot ignore the aura of a beautiful woman despite being married at the time. It is because of this, that Kami divorced him, yet he will do whatever he can to show that his two loves, Kami and Makaw, means everything to him. So far, it has been unsuccessful. End character info. How was I, Makaw? Posing as cool as he could, trying to impress his daughter, amazing, right? The desired effect did not happen, as Makaw just let out a small tch and sweat drop at the obvious display her father was attempting. Hey! You weird-ass dad is looking at us and making some dumb face, came the ever absent-minded statement from Soul. Why, you're imaging it, replied Macaw weakly. She really didn't even know how to reply to this kind of attempt, and in front of her entire classroom to boot. And that is not my dad, she muttered, averting her gaze from her desperate father. Hey, Death Scythe. Soul called out, are you gonna be our homeroom teacher from now on? It's only temporary, Spirit replied, looking down at the attendance sheet, just until they find a replacement for Sid. And by the way, it's Death Scythe Sensei, looking up with an angry expression on his face. Don't forget the Sensei, you little moron. The anger seemingly disappearing. Okay, I'm taking attendance now. That made Soul's irritation for the guy worse. You just said you weren't taking it. Waving off his concerns smoothly, I said I wasn't gonna take it for the guys. I'll take it for the lovely ladies, thought. And that brought the irritation level past breaking point for Soul. Stop messing around, you old pervert. You're the worst, Macaw commented on the side, not all that afraid of saying it in front of Spirit. Friggin' noisy. Spirit eyed Soul, bringing the clipboard up as he skimmed through the list. Let's see. Soul Eater. Soul Eater. There it is. Evaluation. There it is. Evaluation. Worst, he said, writing an E in a provided box underneath it. Clapping his hands, right then, let's start class. Hey. What did you write, you bastard? Soul interrupted, not liking what happened in front of him. Spirit turned around, back to his students, seeming in thought. Oh, that's right. Macaw, Soul. What, you old pervert? Soul asked as he was seriously considering opening a can of scythe whoop ass on him at this point. The Shinigami wants to see you. Don't worry about class and go. Emphasizing his point, Spirit used his clipboard shooed them away. Macaw and Soul were left a little surprised at that and both asking the same thing, the Shinigami? I wonder what Shinigami-sama wants. Macaw thought out loudly, as the pair walked through the aisles of torii gates, which are styled to look like guillotines. I dunno, was Soul's lazy response. As the two walked along, neither one noticed the figure squatting down on top of one of the torii gates. It's Soul and Macaw. Pretty dumb to show their backs to me. The figure revealed to be Black Star, as he gazed down at the two with Tsubaki in her chain scythe form. Let's do it, Tsubaki. Right, standing tall as he grasped onto both ends of the chain scythe. First way of the assassin. Be covered in shadow, and stay your breath. Lie in wait for your target to let down its guard, he yelled out. Hey, it's Black Star. And there went his cover, as Macaw pointed him out. What are you yelling about from up there? Soul asked, as neither one of them aware that Black Star was trying to stay hidden. Black Star could only twitch in embarrassment as he was spotted out. The scythe in his right hand glowed as the upper torso of his partner Tsubaki appeared. We've been noticed, she deadpanned her wielder. My uncontrollable star power must have backfired. Black Star tried passing off. Well, whatever, jumping down, he left Tsubaki resume her human form. The ages can't handle someone as awesome as me. You're about to swoon. Huh, Tsubaki. Turning towards his partner, Tsubaki could only hope to find a hole somewhere to hide. Right. Foregoing the awkward moment, the now group of four made their way towards Shinigami's mirror. All right, I'll call him, Macaw offered, as she began writing, 4242564, on the glass, death, death, murder. She spoke. Not a second longer, the mirror seemed to pulse and ripple, as a ringing tone could be heard. The mirror then started to light up, meaning that Shinigami has answered their call. Hello, hello, Shinigami? Yes, yes. What up, what up? The image of the Shinigami in all his glory appeared before the four students. Thanks for coming. Scythe Master Macaw here, Macaw, Demon Weapon Master Black Star, Black Star. And his partner Tsubaki, Tsubaki. So why did you want to see us? Soul. Getting straight to the point. I have a little task I want to leave to you guys, getting a unified. What is it, from the group? Leaning forward as he brought his block-like hands up as if telling a secret, maintenance. What? Macaw spoke, clearly distressed, by maintenance. You mean what you make stupid people do? I'm not doing it. That's not something for someone who's gonna become the strongest Death Scythe to do, Soul stubbornly responded as he turned around. Standing up straight, Shinigami went serious at them. What is the responsibility of masters and their weapons? He quizzed. Almost automatically, Macaw answered with practice ease, yes. To collect 99 souls that have abandoned the way of man and turned into Kishin eggs, and 1 soul of a witch, to create a weapon of Shinigami-sama, a death scythe. Her answer came like a textbook. Indy, D. Shinigami replied happily, but at the moment, the number of souls you have collected, bringing both his hands out, he formed an O with his thumb and forefinger with both hands, is 0, is it not? And that brought the world of Maka, Soul and Tsubaki a crashing, while Black Star just laughed it off. Shinigami chop. Well, not anymore. Now is not the time to be laughing, he scolded the currently out cold assassin. Turning back to the other three, so, about the maintenance. I'm sure you've all heard the rumors, about Sid Sensei, who used to be a professor here at Shibusen. See? I told you it was true, Soul said, his world still broken but living. Maka and Tsubaki being the same, while Black Star laid face first on the floor with blood pouring from Shinigami's attack on his noggin. Yeah, but he was such a good teacher, Maka said, equally broken like Soul. Indeed, in life, he was a good teacher here at Shibusen. But, the aura around him growing colder, he became a zombie, being released from the fear of death, and said he would make his students experience the same thing, so he attacked his students, creating a huge problem for everyone, and began his own lessons, all for self-satisfaction. Shinigami's aura changing once more to a livelier feel. However, it's obvious that there is someone who turned Sid Sensei into a zombie, pulling the strings from behind the scenes. Okay. Black Star, somehow miraculously revived with only a bump on his head, said with a pumped-up attitude, leave it to us, Reaper Ness. In other words, you just need us to beat the crap out of him? That's right. The Lord of Death's voice slightly startled at the boy's quick recovery. Composing himself, now don't take this as a threat, but if you fail at this maintenance, next second he was leaning over them, block hand up and ready as if to strike, and his face stern looking as he spoke seriously, I'll have to pleasantly expel you all. And that brought the three slightly normal individuals' worlds crashing down even more, expel. As the three said in shock, it was drowned over with Black Star's overconfidence, no problem. Just leave it up to me. Night draws closer, as the group finds themselves at Hook Cemetery. The atmosphere was one of gloom and despair, and the environment didn't help either. Bare trees littered the cemetery, as hooks upon hooks decorated the misty field. The graves themselves were dreary and dull, their tombstones all carved with the names of the dearly departed, a few with fresh flowers, showing that they have not been one of the unlucky few to have been forgotten. Hey! Come on out, you zombie freaks! And it was at one of these stones, a tombstone in the shape of a cross, that Black Star and Tsubaki find themselves standing in front of staring at, the carving of the name, Sid, chiseled out at the bottom, while Soul went around calling Sid out, clearly losing his mind at the prospect of expulsion. Tsubaki, is this Sid's grave? Black Star spoke with suspicion. Why is this here? He's up and wandering around. Standing next to him was his partner, not all too confident in being at a graveyard, but it was either this, or being expelled. He's got a grave here for the time being, I guess, she replied timidly. I'm not friggin' getting expelled. Come on out, damn it. Soul continued taunting out, as the two partners resumed their talk. It looks like a regular grave to me, Black Star pointed out. I never listened in your class in the first place. Taunted Soul once more, laughing crazily at the end. This was starting to worry Tsubaki. It looks like Soul-kun snapped, she deadpanned. Away from the three, Maka was currently experiencing a midlife crisis at an early age. I thought I was going to be a great scythe master just like mom. When did I fall so far behind in school? Her body sliding down further onto the ground besides a tree she was leaning on. What's she so depressed for? Black Star, come on out, come out, I said, Soul. I think you should be a little more worried, too, Tsubaki. Tsubaki's warning having no effect on her partner. Where are you at, you zombie bastard? Soul snapped loudly, getting irritated and more crazed by the second. And hey, for the heck of it, Black Star joined him in his crusade. Hey Soul. We should piss all over Sid's grave, he suggested. Yeah, let's do it. I'll shit all over it, too. Soul's sanity going away as he dived further into his own little world. As the two stooges went off into their taunts and call-outs, Maka was still experiencing her life crisis. Maybe I can stand. Yeah, I can stand. I can do it, but I can't get up. Tsubaki could do nothing but stare at the people who were one mission away from expulsion, and she felt herself quickly losing hope. All she could do was pray, somebody, stop them. Unbeknownst to any of them, a figure hidden below grinned at sensing their presence, its glowing red eyes shining in the darkness. Huh. Almost instantly, Maka's senses went into overdrive as she felt something unnatural in the area. Her crisis going on hold as she only had a split second before feeling something grabbing her by the ankle, and with ease she was lifted up from the ground upside down. All she could do at this moment was push her skirt up, down to prevent them from falling, and glare at the cold dead man that rose from the ground holding her up. Character info. After becoming a zombie, Sid Barrett's skin has adopted a bluish tone and his face comprises of a flat, piggish nose, with pupilless white eyes and a mouth that persistently displays his top and bottom teeth. Despite being undead, he still retains the full extent of both his hair and physical build. End character info. Maka's eyes stared at the white emotionless ones of her deceased senseis. Are you scared? He spoke, bringing his free hand up to reveal a sharpened stick in hand as a weapon. Seeing the would-be weapon, Maka knows of Sid's reputation as a meister, and tensed at seeing the sharpened tool. You're scared, right? He asked again, but this time he thrust the stick forwards to impale Maka. Before he could make the strike, however, he caught sight of an incoming attack from above and moved back instantly. His actions, however, helped Maka to escape in time, also avoiding being cut by her partner and setting a distance between her target and herself. The light shattered from around the projectile to reveal Soul, firmly planted in the ground in his scythe form and acting as a shield between Maka and Sid. That's Sid sensei. Maka spoke unsure, but Soul answered nonetheless. So it seems. Maka. Soul. Black Star. Tsubaki, the revived Sid, spoke, not facing any of them as he stood in front of his grave. Good morning, good day, good evening. Grabbing underneath the right and left arms of the cross-shaped tombstone, he showed his strength as he pulled it out of the ground and hefted it under his shoulder and held it to strike. It's been too long. I never forget to greet people. That's the kind of man I was. Let's do it. Tsubaki. Right, her voice and tone steeled, as it was for Black Star, both knowing it was time to get serious. Her form shined and shifted, before it thinned out and expanded into her chain scythe mode. Grasping onto his now transformed partner, Black Star was ready for a fight. It started, the large mirror reflecting Black Star, as he grasped onto Tsubaki's transformed state. Shinigami stood at attention in front of his mirror, as 4 individuals sat behind him, watching the events unfold. Sid Sensei. Why are you doing this? Maka asked as she prepared herself as well, twirling Soul's transformed body a few times before standing ready. Kill, dong, ding, dong. Sid sang out ominously, being a zombie is great. So many things get better, he replied. Class is starting. I start the lesson right at the bell. That's the kind of man I was, turning his attention from Maka to Black Star as he spoke. Fine with me. It's been a long time. Posing ready to strike, Black Star leveled a grin with the dead teacher. Since I've shown you my zeal for learning. Making himself known, we're about to be expelled. Let's do this. Soul reminded everybody, also getting pumped for battle. Start your rotten, expired lesson. If you become a zombie, the pressure of death disappears, Sid explained. A noticeable grin forming on his already grin-like face. You can escape from the terror. Not once blinking or flinching at his cold exterior, Maka responded, that's not right. Sensei wouldn't have said anything like that. She only saw it for a second, but Sid had disappeared in a burst of speed and Maka watched as he appeared above her a second later, poised and ready to strike her with the heavy tombstone. Stop talking and learn. The rattling of chains and a dead stop halted the strike from Sid's tombstone, as both Sid and Maka looked to see one end of Tsubaki's chain scythe form holding firmly at one of the cross's arms with the bladed end. You're small, and I'm big. There's no need to thank me. Black Star boasted, holding tightly at the chain to keep it from striking. I'm fairly impatient, Sid started, twisting his body around and pulling on the chain with his impressive strength. That's the kind of man I was. Not expecting this, Black Star was brought flying forward fast and tossed at Maka. The two collided and were pushed back, but neither one falling to the ground as they steadied their feet and stood ready once more. You might as well give up. 1-star masters can't win against me, Sid stated, not at all intimidated, worried or bothered by their skills. If we take your soul, it's all over, zombie or not, came the heated reply from Soul. Sid Sensei is pretty strong, Maka observed and reported. In life, Sensei was in a while different league from us 1-star masters. He was 3 stars, the highest rank of weapon master. Doesn't matter to me, Soul spoke calmly, not at all frightened by that bit of information. Oi, Sensei. You keep winging around your grave like that, you'll pay for it. You don't want to die again, do you? I can use my grave however I please, Sid spoke, cross held in front of him. It's about time to start first period. Hefting the tombstone and gripping it firmly, he had it held out towards them. Kill, dong, ding, dong. He sang again ominously. By the way, at the end of the period. A dark grin on his face, you'll all be dead. The technical school for Reaper Arms Masters. In short. The Shibusen, operating from the deepest recesses of all the corners of the world, in order to prevent the second coming of the demon god, who would bring about the destruction of all existence and envelop mankind within the spirals of madness. The Shinigami established this agency of weapons and those that would be trained to wield them. To put it bluntly, it's an organization of justice to protect peace, but why is it a trade school of all things? Well, who cares? Alright then, let's get all hyped up and read on. Standing with his arms crossed, stood Naruto, but different from how he looked before. He wore black boots, black knee-length shorts with an eyelet-studded orange belt, and a blue pouch belted around his left leg. He also wore a short second belt with a large white skull on the silver buckle over his right hip, but left it unfastened and threaded the free end along the back of his shorts. A dagger in a white sheath hung at his left hip. On his left arm, he wore a black and white striped bracelet around his wrist, an orange elbow guard. He wore a black hat with two white skull smileys, one frowning and one smiling, and a string of red beads sitting above the rim. Two long orange side straps hung down sides of his hat and met at a large medallion of a skull with orange tassels. A.N. Portgas d'Ace's outfit, slightly modified. What was really different however was the meter-long pushy red foxtail sticking out of his tailbone and pants, and the pair of equally red, with white tip, fox ears on his head and through two openings in his hat. Why he has these however, is another story. During the time he had lived at Death City, Shinigami had spent many a days and nights in attempting to stabilize Naruto's DNA. Because of the hand he had played on Naruto when he wasn't even a day, or even an hour old. Naruto's body was unstable as it tried to incorporate not only his parents' DNA, or his own DNA, but also for what he contained. In the end, Shinigami chose to give Naruto an ultimatum. Stay the way he was, 100% human, though with trouble controlling his powers no matter the amount of training. Or grant him permission to begin a ritual that would allow not only for his DNA, the Shinigami blood, to stabilize inside Naruto's body, but also allow his prisoner to become his weapon. Naruto chose the later as he wanted to become strong to defend his new family. As the ritual was close to ending, the prisoner bestowed a gift of sorts to Naruto, giving him a portion of DNA as well. When the ritual finished, the conclusion was Naruto becoming half Shinigami, a quarter human and a quarter kitsune. Though only 25% kitsune, it allowed him to utilize kitsune's specialty in the arts of illusions. It also gave him the extra appendages. Despite how he turned out, Naruto never felt so free. It was also because of this end result that helped Naruto to find love. Something he never could find back at Konoha. Using illusions, he hides his extra features to not only help keep his secret, but also from scaring people. Despite what his father says, he has a deep fear of people hating him for being a fox. Kitsune or Yoko, it didn't matter against human fear and hatred. Naruto stared at the mirror's reflection, as Macaw and Black Star began attacking the Sid zombie. But his focus was entirely on Soul as he continued glaring at the demon's scythe weapon. Naruto-kun, you shouldn't glare at others you know. It is quite rude, Shinigami's voice spoke calmly, not at all turning around to face his son that stood behind him. Kid and Liz were currently sitting down on a pair of chairs. The second was for Naruto but he gave it to Liz, while Patty stood next to Liz. I still don't like him Chichiyu, Naruto stated, not once taking his eyes off the demon's scythe. Looking at the screen again, as he watched Black Star attempt at striking Sid from behind, only to get pushed back and struck with Sid's signature attack, Living End, taking a gaze towards Shinigami, and I hate it even more that you refuse to tell me his location. His mood changing 180 as comical tears streamed down his face, and I miss my Kitty-chan. Shinigami, Kid and Liz couldn't help but sweatdrop at that. The man's love for the cat was beyond creepy. Almost spirits creepy, yet Naruto wasn't a flirtatious monster like him. Kid sighed, mostly to himself. You do know that if Chichiyu gave you Soul Eater Evan's location, you would beat him to within an inch of his life, correct? A twitch from Naruto's tail, and we don't want a repeat of what happened to Spirit when he flirted with Blair that one time she came over. Do we? Kid asked. opening one eye as he questioned his brother. Naruto hung his head in defeat, his ears and tail down in submission. No, suddenly appearing on the other side of the room. Naruto was crouched down near the ground and was drawing figure 8 with his finger, a raincloud on his head, but I miss my Blair-chan. This got another sigh from Kid and Liz, while Patty and Shinigami had a small laugh at Naruto's expense. Don't worry about it, Naruto-kun. Once I know you won't kill Soul-kun, I'll let you and Blair back together, Shinigami reassured the depressed teen. That brought a good mood to Naruto, as he stood beside Kid once more, thanks Chichiyu. With everything settled, the group focused back at the mirror, as it showed Maka having avoided Sid's living end attack rather closely. Suspending her legs above her, with her head on the ground and her body twisted enough to show she was really flexible, Maka had avoided a direct strike of Sid's living end attack, leaving the poor zombies stunned. Taking her opening, we may be afraid, but that's what makes us able to become stronger than anyone. With all the strength she could from her position, she kicked Sid at the face and brought the larger individual crashing into the ground as she used him as a springboard and got back up. Shinigami was quite surprised to hear that from a student of Shibusen, or a human for that matter. Normally, I'd say not feeling fear is foolish. The image of Maka's face unafraid as she stood ready clear on the mirror, but Maka has the courage to fight off the fear, turning his head, almost like you, Naruto-kun? Smirking, Naruto just shook his head. No, Chichiyu. I just accept fear is all. I don't have the strength or courage to fight against them, just deal with them. Kid wore a playful smirk on his face. But isn't it you who mostly fights against Kishin eggs that even I would have trouble with Naruto? He pointed out. Again, Naruto shook his head. Like I said, I accept fear. I just learned to deal with them. Besides, looking up at the mirror at the fight, I got my friends, partners and family helping me. I'm not alone. Kid's smile faltered for a second, but came back full force as he too turned back at the mirror. Liz looked at Naruto with an expressionless face, but quickly smiled softly too. Shinigami nodded his head at what he heard. It seemed Naruto has really come a long way from the scared and insecure child he was when he was brought here. And for that, Shinigami couldn't thank the creator enough for it. That village has no idea the potential they had lost when they forsook this boy. I am so proud of my sons, he quietly thought, watching the events unfold at Hook Cemetery. Resonance of souls. Maka and Soul spoke in unison, as power coursed its way through their bodies. Maka brought her scythe up above her head, the blade glowing white before it seemingly shattered and expanded, traditional scythe master craft. The scythe reformed into a large crescent-shaped weapon. The blade shined like a white stained glass shard with a blue highlight at the edges. It also had what appeared as a tattered mouth just past the pole that held it. Soul's scythe, also increased in size, its shape a large round black outlined circle with two small extensions at the top and bottom of the eye, a pale inside with a single large red pupil. Witch hunt slash. Bringing the blade down at Sid's still shocked body, Maka footing slipped and accidentally brought the blade down towards the ground and struck behind her. The resulting attack dug a trench in the ground as the blade beam coursed through it, narrowly missing Black Star. The attack left a deep cut as it sailed through the graveyard, and through the fence that stood around the cemetery. What the hell are you doing? You tryin' to kill me? Black Star yelled out, scared shitless from the near strike that would have chopped his block off. It's Soul's fault. Do it right, idiot. Maka retorted, equally mad as Black Star. What? Quit screwing around. Why is it my fault? You're the idiot. Soul replied, just as mad as the other two, you're freaking insane. As the two bickered, Sid could just stand there dumbstruck at what nearly happened. Such power. He didn't have time to think, as Maka returned back to the offense and charged straight at him. Seeing the approach, Sid dug his feet into the ground. I wanted to finish this quickly, too. Maka shouted out as she took a swing for Sid's head. As the strike passed, Maka noticed that Sid was gone. Disappeared. No, he dug underground, Soul said. Maka didn't have to wait long, as Sid struck from behind at her blank spot, but before he could get the strike to connect, he was blocked by Black Star. Avoiding the counter from him, Sid returned back underground. Damn it, he dug underground again. Black Star, Tsubaki spoke quietly at her partner. Yeah, I know. Sid is using the first way of the assassin, Black Star began explaining, as Tsubaki took over. Be covered in shadow, and stay your breathe. Lie in wait for your target to let down its guard. Tsubaki, Black Star spoke with seriousness in his voice. Let's get one step ahead of him, he ordered, as Tsubaki's chain circled around the two meisters, right. As the chains stretched and moved about them, Black Star stood perfectly still with his left hand in a single hand sign ram, and was concentrating at finding their target. Don't try and upstage me. You rotten zombie piece of garbage. Maka stood back to back with him, glancing behind her to watch Black Star work. There doesn't need to be two assassins. You can't steal my spotlight. Having finished their formation, Tsubaki's chain surrounded them in the shape of a star, trap star, with them at the center. Second way of the assassin not once leaving his concentrated meditative state. Concentrate. I can hear it. The wavelength of his soul. He passed Tsubaki and is coming this way. Stopping his breathing, he waited. Not even 2 seconds later, Sid burst from the ground and struck. Black Star opened his eyes and glared at him, pulling the chain in his hand immediately. Trap Star, activate. Sid having been stopped in his tracks by a couple of chain around his arm and torso, he couldn't do anything as the surrounding chains that remained started coiling and moving around. Wah. Sid, Ai. Maka, Yoi. Shinigami laughing triumphantly in his victory. Black Star completely ignored the fact he trapped not only Sid, but Maka and Soul as well. What the hell? You capture me, too. Maka kicked and screamed. You were in the way. Black Star responded cheerfully, not even taking her threats to heart. Hum. Looks like the end of this chapter, Shinigami spoke, watching the small victory that the group had won before the mirror clicked off like a computer screen. Now we just need to find the mastermind that turned Sid-sensei into a zombie. Kid spoke behind his father. Yup, was the cheerful reply from the Lord of Death, turning around to face his sons and their partners. Looking at his father seriously, who is it, Chichiyu? You know of the master that had forged the current best weapon, Death Scythe-kun? Yes. Shinigami asked, getting a curious look from Kid but a deep serious frown from Naruto. Yes. It was Maka's mother, correct? Kid questioned, what about it? Actually, Maka's mother was Death Scythe-kun's second partner, Shinigami corrected. That got a flinch from Naruto, while Kid's eyes to widen slightly as he sat straight. You mean, his first partner is? The mastermind is Dr. Frankenstein, Shinigami revealed. He was Death Scythe-kun's first partner, and the strongest master that ever graduated from Shibusen. But why would Stein Senpai? Naruto whispered out in shock. Why would he do that to Sid Senpai? Stein and Sid were the two people Naruto respected the most. It was them along with Sid's partner who had rescued Naruto all those years ago and brought him to his new home. To know that one of them did that to another, well, it left him shell-shocked. Frankenstein is known to enjoy dissecting, experimenting and analyzing scenarios, correct? Kid spoke, a gleam of understanding in his face. He did this to record data most likely. But on what exactly is the real question? Perhaps he did this as some sick joy. Liz tried suggesting, but getting a negative shake from Naruto. No. Senpai is always a person of reason, Naruto said, lost in his thoughts. He is a person who won't do something unless it serves a purpose. Whether it be to reach an end, or to gain something of interest, for him information, a twitch of his ear. But I haven't seen him since Sid and he deemed me action ready when they finished training me. What was that? Like 3, maybe 4 years ago. A tilt of his head. I have seen and spoken with Senpai on numerous occasions, but never long enough for me to notice any changes to his behavior. For the fact I grew up under their wings during training, I'd say Sid volunteered to be turned into a zombie as he trusted Stein. But for what purpose or end this provides for them is beyond me. Kid sat there listening to what his brother said, and couldn't help but somewhat agree. He too knew Stein, and from what he knows, what Naruto had said matches exactly how Stein portrays himself as. Shinigami stood in silence, having listened to Naruto's analytical skills. If he could show it, he would be grinning like a madman that found water in a desert. It seems those years under Stein and Sid has done wonders for his observation and analytical skills, he mused. Very good, Naruto-kun. That is indeed how Stein works. Turning around, he reactivated his mirror, now showing Maka and the rest standing in front of Stein's house. As I've said before, Professor Stein is the strongest of all the masters to have graduated from Shibusen. He is quite formidable. He's the master that was the original partner of Chichiyu's Death Scythe, Kid said, now seeing a slight problem in this situation. Liz however spoke out that problem. Didn't you tell them to go take his soul? Naruto perked up a little at that, They're going to have their work cut out for them. Liz, however, the ever-positive one of their group, turned to her sister. If you went, sis, it'd be over in a second. That got a flinch before Liz gave her naive little sister an exasperated look. I'm just a typical weapon. Patty, you overestimate your older sister too much. I'd be dead before I hit the ground. As for this maintenance, don't you think it's a bit harsh? Kid asked his father, only getting a small laugh from the Lord of Death. There's no question. They're going to die. Sitting inside his dark workroom, one Frankenstein was currently sitting in front of his computer typing away. His dull green eyes scanning over his screen and checking over his typing for precision. Suddenly stopping, he sighed quietly as the smoke from his cigarette blew in front of him. I just can't seem to clear my head. Reaching up to his head, he twisted the bolt that was lodged into his head. Character info. Dr. Frankenstein is the man that changed Sid into a zombie. He was the most powerful Meister to ever graduate from Shibusen. Dr. Stein is a tall man with silver gray hair and big, round glasses. He has a large screw bolt going through his head, which he turns, often as a means to focus his thoughts. A signature hallmark of Stein's is his trademark zigzag stitches. He has said stitches all over his body and clothing. His house is even covered in stitches. His most notable piece of clothing is his doctor's lab coat. He is also surprisingly well built for a man his age, due to a large portion of his time being devoted to combat training. Dr. Stein was Spirit's first wielder during their times in Shibusen, before relinquishing that title to Kami, who later became Spirit's wife. He is a man of reason, always doing something that provided him with valuable information. Whether it is from his opponents or his allies, he will use unorthodox methods in obtaining the information he requires. Some call him a madman, others a screw loose away from the mental asylum, but to some, he is a savior and a very powerful individual whom has earned the respect and admiration from his peers. Pushing his wheelchair back, he leaned backwards while getting comfortable. He let a small grin on his face. Having sensed the arrivals of his guests, he kicked his desk hard and with the use of his wheelchair, rolled backwards. It was time for the host to greet visitors. Back with the maintenance crew, they were currently in front of Frankenstein's home, with Tsubaki's hair still tied around Sid in chain form to prevent him from escaping. Whether anyone took time to notice, but Tsubaki was actually for the first time giving Black Star sideway glares. Reason being was how they got the information from Sid about who was behind all this. Black Star, in his moment of blissful idiocy, flashed Sid Tsubaki's panties and was able to break the man that he used to be into revealing the culprit being Frankenstein. Hence why Tsubaki was glaring at her partner now, silently promising to herself the next time he attempted to do that, she was going to show just how sharp she can get a point across. So this is where Stein is, Soul asked, as he lazily looked around the place, noticing how it was all appeared to be stitched up. Hearing a noise, he looked down at his feet and spotted a stitched-up mouse making robotic noises. This guy. What kind of person is Professor Stein anyway? Maka asked, not liking their situation. Her question never answered, as a lock was heard being undone. Looking forward, they watched as one of Stein's house doors slowly opened. Soul was the first to hear the noise approaching them. Something's comin'. They all listened closely, as the sound got closer and closer. It wasn't long before a figure appeared at the door then. Clank, and with a yelp of surprise, Stein's body fell backwards as his chair hit a stop, causing him to crash. They four just stared surprised at the professor, as Stein got back up and dusted himself off. Damn it, getting back on his chair in a reverse sitting. I'm still a little out of it, he muttered, as he turned his bolt once more. Ah well. Standing back up, he grabbed his chair. Okay. Let me try that one more time, he said, going back inside with his chair, leaving the four outside slightly bewildered. Hey, somebody stop him, Soul said, getting a hesitated look from Maka. But, you know, first impressions, I'm a little worried, Black Star confessed. Me too, Tsubaki agreed. Hearing the sounds of wheels from the chair coming again, the group stopped and waited as Stein's figure appeared once more. Clank. Another yelp of surprise from the doctor and he found himself flat on his back yet again. What a goofy professor, was the unanimous thought going through the four. Still the same as ever Senpai, Naruto thought with a sweat drop and twitching brow, at seeing one of his mentor's weird traits again. Kid and Liz turned towards Naruto with a raised brow from each. That was your teacher, they both stated rather than asked with a deadpanned voice. Urusei. Shut up, he snapped back, ignoring Patty's laughter. Not at all bothered, he was lying on the floor. Stein looked forward at his visitors. So, can I help you? His voice snapped everyone back. You're Stein, right? Soul asked. As Maka took over, you're the one that's been making Sid-sensei attack the students, right? Having returned to his sitting pleasure on his chair, he smiled softly at them. Oh, so that's it. You guys are students from Shibusan, then? Do you have some kind of grudge against us? Maka started interrogating. Not really, Stein flat out replied. My motive is extremely simple, observation and research, nothing more than that. It's my motivation. Resting his head on his arms as they rested on the back cushion of the chair. Everything in this world is an object for my research. Of course, that goes for myself as well. Maka suddenly felt something weird coming from the professor. Something about his eyes felt like he was digging through them and into her soul. Hey, soul, whispering to her partner, aren't you getting a weird feeling? Huh. Should I be? Soul whispered back, neither one noticing one of Stein's abilities taking effect, as their own souls became visible to the professor's very eyes. The blue glow from the souls of the two partners telling Stein everything he needed to know about them. You guys' souls' wavelengths are pretty unstable, he stated, getting the attention of everyone, a cynical, sarcastic soul, and a truly hard worker. The souls shifted until they took form in his eyes, Maka's soul that of an orange ball with two pigtails at the top, two angry-looking white eyes, a small button nose and a small frown. Soul's one of a light blue with a single ponytail like hair, sinister-looking eyes, a button nose and a grin-like mouth in a zigzag pattern. Doesn't look like they're resonating at all, Stein said plainly. What? You can see the souls of living humans. Are you a master? Soul spoke softly, most due to surprise. And to be able to see through our personalities, he's definitely a first-rate master, Maka clarified, not liking their situation even more. Especially with that crazed smile of Stein's after mentioning his apparent status. Maka, her partner whispered, you're good at seeing 'em too, right? Oh, of course. Your soul if quivering. How cute, Stein said playfully. Soul looked at his partner in shock. Maka, however, Urusai. Stop looking. She screamed out, crossing her arms over her chest as if she was being peeked on. Yeah. Shut up. Yahoo! The loud cry getting the people on the ground to look up. Your boring extras need to stop your talking. It's time to switch over to my front stage monologue. Up on the top of Stein's house, Black Star stood proudly as he gazed down at the people looking up to him, in his world, looking up to him. How'd he get up there? Were the simultaneous thoughts coming from the 9 people there, watching, while one was the only person cheering Black Star on. I dunno anything about seeing souls, crouching down with his hand out. Like I give a crap about other people's souls. All I need is to be able to see my own soul, Black Star commented, as he jumped down from the building to face off against Stein. Black Star's actions and words got nothing more than Stein laughing in glee. You're an impressive one. He began. What an extremely obstinate, violent soul, Black Star's soul in full view for him to see. It was that of the same color from Soul's, but its features were the most different of the lot. The soul was grinning madly, its eyes giving a dead serious yet hyper look to them, as if enjoying a challenge. Its body was sprouting little spikes all over, as wild-like as his hair it seemed. What was really a kicker for Stein, was the fact Black Star's soul seemed to be jumping all over the place, unlike all other souls whereas they are floating in a single spot. Grabbing onto his bolt in thought, there aren't many partners around that suit your soul, is there? It was more a statement than a question. Here I go. The battle cry of Black Star came loudly, as he charged straight forward towards Stein. In an impressive show of his speed, he was able to cross the distance in a blink of an eye and was already in the air, ready for a round kick to the face. The kick, however, was blocked lazily by Stein, as he used the momentum from said kick to spin himself around completely in a 180-degree spin. Black Star, not relenting the assault, charged up for another kick, but with a small twisting push, Stein completed the full 360 turn and blocked the kick yet again with the same arm lazily. Pushing the boy away, Black Star landed with his back towards the professor. Big mistake. Taking the opening, Dr. Stein pushed his chair towards Black Star, and with the added speed from the pursuit and the turning of Black Star's head, landed a direct, deadly elbow shot with his other arm, onto Black Star's face, sending the boy flying further away. Black Star. Tsubaki called out in concern. The call got Stein's attention, as he turned around his chair to face the voice. He took a second to view the person. Oh, I get it. You must be his partner, he guessed. You've got a cooperative personality, and you're very willing to accept others. Tsubaki's soul coming into view for him. The soul of Tsubaki's shared the same color of Maka's. Its white eyes showed and portrayed a sense of timidness along with the small smile it adorned. The soul also had a single ponytail to it, yet unlike Soul's soul, this appendage was extra long as like her real hair. So you harmonize your soul with his, then, Stein guessed, figuring out a small puzzle to their little group. Who the hell are you? Soul demanded. This guy was unsettling to say the least. He had not only solved each one of them like a puzzle, figuring out their personality, partner, but also showed he was quite skilled to handle his own with little to no ease, as he had shown with Black Star's attempt. His head once more lay itself onto his arms. All right. I think I've gathered enough data. Stein replied happily. A content smile that was also portrayed in his eyes. Shall we start the experiment? Located in Death City, on the 8th District, B Block, a rather small and plain-looking building was currently servicing its frequent customer, as the laughs and shouts were any indication. The building has an enormous and highly adorned sign set above the entirety of the club's front, easily equaling the structure in size, bearing the club's name, Chupacabras, in enormous letters and adorned with hearts and lights that are turned on at night. The interior consists of an enclosed bar, surrounded by multiple stools and a separate payment area along one wall and many partitioned sections, containing individual small couches and rounded glass tables, opposite. The decor inside is furnished with a predominantly pink coloring, featuring numerous pieces that are lavishly accented with golden trim, which also generally conform to a heart theme that is displayed throughout, even appearing on the front door in the form of a heart-shaped window. The club is lit by a great number of candles, which are both present on the many tables and built in along some of the walls. There is also a separate changing locker area for the main female staff. Currently sitting at one of these tables, sat one Spirit Albarn and the Chupacabra's newest member, Blair. My drink's all gone. The loud and clearly drunk voice of Spirit hollered. Papa. You sure can put 'em away. Just a sec, Blair replied, lifting her finger and pointing it towards the bottle and glass on the table. Pampampukin, Pampukin. She chanted, as the wine bottle rose up from the ice bucket and poured itself into the glass. Blair Chan. This is your third day at the cabaret, yeah? Spirit asked. You're getting in quite a bit of practice. Isn't that foxboy going to get upset with you or something? Despite being drunk, he clearly still remembered that confrontation he had with Naruto when he flirted with Blair that one time, but since he wasn't around, and they were at a cabaret club, and drinking, and that he was a flirtatious monster that never knew when to stop. Thanks. NYA. But don't worry about Foxy Koi, Blair reassured. He was actually the one to suggest this so that I can make friends. But Papa, you went to school today, right? Changing the topic. How did it go? Did you get along with Maka? She knew all about Spirit's attempts at receiving love from the daughter that didn't want anything to do with him, but it never hurt to try and play doctor and patch things up. As the drink finished pouring and stirring, she turned to serve him, only to see his crestfallen face. She ignored me, he said distressed. That girl just gets mad no matter what I do. Maka's so cute. Blair added innocently. Ah, but your divorce is finalized next month, right? Cheer up. She attempted to break him out of his depressive funk, but seemed to make it worse. Tell me to cheer up all you want, but as far as parenting goes, my ex-wife said she doesn't need any alimony or child support. Speaking soberly and lowly, what good am I to Maka? I'm nothing as a father. Still trying to cheer him up, Blair attempted once more. That's not true. Giving money isn't the only thing a parent does. Fight. Blair made a fist at the end to prove her point. But such attempts went unheard at the distraught father. Money is another form of love, right? It's terrible I can't do a single thing for Maka. Actually getting a single tick of her brow, Blair continued attempted to change the mood, but this time a different perspective. Then while you're here, turn those negatives into positives. Make use of that lecherous side that got you divorced, raising her fist into the air with an oomph, and find yourself a new wife. Yay. No, and there went Blair's latest attempt. I can't even imagine getting remarried. My life sucks. Looking up from his lap, he had a glare to his face. Ever since I grouped up with Stein, speaking darkly at the mere mention of that man. Maka charged at Stein with soul in demon scythe form. Foregoing any form of strategy, she charged straight at the doctor and took a big swing directed for his body diagonally. Using his chair, Stein wheeled slightly left and avoided the strike. Pushing with his left foot, he avoided another strike as he went rolling to the right and away from Macaw. Scythe Master Macaw, Stein muttered in thought, seeming to try and remember something. Not letting Macaw get her balance after her second failed strike, he placed his feet on her back and pushed, making the girl stumble forwards while he went further away. Many would think he was giving himself distance, but Stein did it with purpose. As he rode back, he head-butted Black Star in the face, sending the boy flying back once more holding his nose. Stein was and still is effectively fighting two Meisters and a weapon without even leaving his chair. Turning the bolt in his head a few times, what was it? About a Scythe Master Macaw, he mused out loudly. I know I've heard it somewhere before. As if solving a riddle, he pounded his closed hand into the palm of his other while he made a face of understanding, before he pointed a finger at Macaw. Ah. Are you the daughter of Spirit Senpai? He asked. Back at the Chupacabras, Spirit was depressed once more as he retold his story. This time he had a new servicer by the name of Riza by his side listening. Riza is one of the club's longest members, along with her partner Arisa. The days I spent with him were definitely hell, Spirit mumbled, lost in his memories. Spirit? Soul asked confused, but Macaw clarified it, my dad's name before he became Death Scythe. Pushing herself to stand with Soul, she turned towards Stein as he sat there grinning at her, but how do you know that? Leaning his head on his hand, ah, I can remember it now, he began reminiscing, Senpai's sleeping face, that got weird looks from those listening to him. He would come in while I was sleeping, Spirit spoke hesitatively, as if remembering a painful memory. Crying out as he screamed in despair, and perform experiments on my body. The memory of Stein's form hovering above him as Spirit slept, a chalkboard behind him with details and equations. What made it worse though was the fact Stein was grinning madly while holding a scalpel. For 5 years, burying his head into the coach. 5 years? Riza asked astonished and a little scared, and you never noticed? Wow. Papa San, you're so thick-headed. Blair quipped in, as she patted Spirit on the back with a cat-like grin on her face, ever the innocent and cheerful Catwoman. I thought it was weird that I kept getting scars and I had no idea from what Spirit confessed. If my ex-wife didn't notice, he might still be doing it today. He cried out. Unbeknownst to him, Stein was reliving the same memories as him, but in his perspective it was a gift from God from the research he had achieved before Cammy intervened. Back at the death room, the room's occupants had been listening to Stein's retelling of his time with Spirit, and each one that didn't know Stein personally couldn't help but sweatdrop at what they heard. Liz turned towards Naruto with a questioning look and a bit of hesitation. He was your sensei. For a number of years. And you never once knew about that? She asked, getting a slow shake of his head as a response. In all honesty. Naruto spoke slowly, I always wondered why Stein Senpai seemed to be cheery from time to time. Now knowing why he was, sorta creeps me out. He and Liz shivered at that. Stein-san is known to be a man who dissects, experiments, analyze, theorize, is well versed in hand-to-hand combat apparently, is known to be the strongest Meister to have graduated from Shibusen, and also was the first partner to Chichiu's Death Scythe known as Spirit. Kid listed off, before turning a disbelieving look towards Naruto. How are you still sane? A tick of the brow before Naruto turned towards his brother. This coming from a person who suffers from OCD with anything symmetrical, he muttered, before taking a breather. But I guess it's because I was more under Sid's wing rather than Stein's. A twitch of an ear. Don't take me wrong. Stein Senpai taught me a lot about my soul and the soul wavelength as well as physical training, but I mostly trained under Sid Senpai for guerrilla warfare and assassination. As well as weapon skills, mostly short blades, daggers and range weaponry. Stein was always the busiest of the pair, so I ended up making Sid more of my role model than him. A sigh of relief, and thank God that I did, he muttered, getting thankful nods from Kid, Liz and Shinigami. No one wanted to know what Death City would be like with two Steins. I see, Stein said, gazing at Macaw closely, so you're his beloved daughter. Speaking a little lowly with a small scowl on his face, the daughter of the woman that stole my previous test subject, the smile back on his face, as his cigarette just continued burning at the corner of his mouth. Looking at Macaw with a shine in his eyes. I'd love to dissect you. But you were his partner for 5 years, right? Blair asked curiously at the still distraught father. She may not know much about Meisters and weapons, but she knew enough from Naruto about some aspects of it, I'm sure you synced your soul's wavelengths. Even if he's just the least bit curious about his opponent's weapon, he can make use of it pretty well. Spirit spoke in somewhat respect mixed with a bit of foreboding. His insight and competence is far beyond what my wife, ex-wife, who forged me had. Raising his head, his face was dead neutral, yet his eyes shined with utter seriousness. Stein is a prodigy. For the first time since their confrontation, Stein opted for the offense. Charging forward on his chair, he raised his right arm up and held out his palm open to strike. It's just an open palm attack. Guard it, Soul warned, as Macaw braced herself, right. Before she knew it, Stein struck and she defended. Pushing the pole of the scythe forward, she blocked the attack head-on. What she wasn't expecting though, was when Stein twisted his hand counterclockwise on Soul's scythe form. The odd gesture went unnoticed by Macaw, as when Stein struck, he struck with a shocking pushback. A small static discharge, followed by the sound of a small explosion, and Macaw was left shocked as she flew away from Stein as a tingling sensation coursed through her body and souls, making them grunt in pain. Bouncing twice, Macaw crashed onto the ground a few feet away from the ever-calm doctor. Pushing herself off the ground, what was that? She looked up towards Stein. What the hell did he do? Soul asked, also feeling the pain as Macaw did. What the Scythe Master noticed were small electrical sparks dancing around the arm that Stein struck with. I don't believe it. Kid muttered, disbelieving. Weapons have physical attack strength, of course. But moreover, it gets amplified by the wavelength of Master's soul to become more formidable. Looking sternly at the reflection of Stein's arm as the static danced a few times more, but even so, he managed to knock down his opponent without passing his soul's wavelength through a weapon? Chuckling was heard, as Kid and Liz turned towards the source, finding it coming from Naruto. Like I said before, Stein-senpai taught me a lot about the soul and soul wavelength. He is a foremost expert on the concept of it, he explained. He also explained and basically drilled into my head the relationships weapons and masters have, saying that it was the principle of how he achieved such expertise in soul wavelength combat. Weapon and master have a relationship similar to electric guitars and amps. Shinigami took over, explaining the concept in an easier way to understand. The sound of an electric guitar by itself is very small, but when connected to an amp, the soul's wavelength is amplified, and a larger power is brought out. A block hand came up with one finger, the witch hunt slash. The technique they used during the battle with Sid Sensei is a good example of this, yes. Pointing at the now standing visage that is Dr. Frankenstein on the mirror, but Stein-kun is letting us hear the wavelength of his soul with just the guitar. Unbelievable. Kit replied softly, I can't imagine how he would be when holding a weapon. This got another chuckle from Naruto, but this time it was of an empty humor. Trust me bro. Stein-senpai with a weapon. Not a pretty combination for whoever he's fighting. Are you able to fight like he does, Naruto-kun? Liz asked, but only received a shake of his head. Taking a sigh, Naruto rubbed the back of his head in slight frustration. No. No, I can't. Stein tried teaching me, but because of how unstable, he said my soul is, that achieving anything like he does is near impossible for me. He said that to achieve what he can do, it takes a person's soul to be adaptable and calm, concentrated and foremost focused, he explained to Liz. Unstable? Kid questioned, this being the first time he ever heard of his brother's soul. Naruto just shook his head again, not telling, he shrugged, it's something I'm not proud of, and would rather keep to myself. Sorry bro. Kid accepted that. For the time being, but he knew Naruto would tell sooner or later. The two barely kept secrets from one another, being family and all. But if it was serious, then it can wait. Right then. Stein spoke, standing for once from his chair to face off against his visitors. Twisting his bolt a few times, his face holding a semi-bored expression. Where should I make the first incision? He asked, emphasizing his point by making a snip-snip motion with his fingers. What's wrong, Macaw? Pull yourself together. Soul yelled out, trying to get his partner's attention. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong with her. Your breathing and your wavelength is all wrong. Ignoring what Soul said, Macaw panicked and charged Stein as she screamed. Wait, Macaw. Bringing her scythe up, Stein countered by raising his left hand up only, and as Macaw brought the weapon down. She got the same result as last time. Stein's counter was another electrical pushback that shocked Macaw back, making her release Soul in pain as well as sending them both flying back once more. You idiot. Soul exclaimed, as his reflection in the scythe's blade showed that the damage from Stein's attack was more severe than last time, as he had blood coming out of his mouth. Landing roughly on the ground, Soul reverted back into his human form, but was unable to move due to the pain. Macaw. Not letting her go, Stein reached out and grabbed onto one of Macaw's hairtails and pulled her back up against him. Taking her coat off, he lifted Macaw's shirt up slightly to reveal Macaw's unblemished and smooth stomach. Such smooth skin. Stein commented as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a pen marker. Now, where should I insert the scalpel? Drawing 2 lines on Macaw's stomach as the two intersected, it caused Macaw to panic more at the concept of being dissected. Bringing her head closer to his, maybe I should scalp you and make your skin into sandpaper. He offered up with a straight face, his voice unwavering as Macaw continued to struggle in his grip. I'll knock those freaking glasses right off your face, bastard. A familiar voice he had forgotten spoke out. Don't you forget I'm here. Charge at the doctor from behind was Black Star. Yet knowing who it was, Stein was unconcerned. It's no use. You're not the only one that can kick ass with just the wavelength of your soul. Black Star announced, as he got into position for one of his most deadly of attacks. What? Stein said in surprise, but before he could do anything, Black Star was already executing. Twisting his body sideways, he brought his right arm up with the elbow spearing out while his left arm was brought above the right with the fist aligned with the right's elbow. Certain kill. Stomping the ground, he twisted his foot and brought his body along with it for full force as he struck Stein's back. Black Star Big Wave. As Black Star struck, Stein's hold on Macaw was released as Black Star's soul wavelength coursed through Stein's back and into him. The area around Stein and Black Star was enshrouded by what appeared as Black Star's soul, as when his soul's energy invaded Stein, numerous dark balls with kanji writings burst from the striking point. Watching in shock, what the? Kid sat there in disbelief. Patty was watching in wonder, as Liz looked at the scene in interest. Naruto on the other hand was the most troubled one of all. How? Stein-senpai said Black Star's soul is extremely obstinate and violent. How could he do what senpai is capable of? Shinigami merely yo-ho-hoed at that, knowing that it was going to be quite a shocker for when the young assassin brought that little technique out. Just as you could expect from Black Star. His soul's wavelength is extraordinarily large. And to deal a blow with his soul's wavelength is truly exceptional, growing solemn, however. Stein has experience on his side. Naruto's eyes merely went from shock to serious, as he stared at the mirror. It reflecting Stein who had remained standing where he was struck and Black Star slowly lowering his arms and moving back to see what happened. His eyes were locked onto Black Star. There is more to him than meets the eye. What is his history? Unflinching from the strike, Stein just rose his head. Well, isn't this a surprise? Macaw was staring in shock at this, as she moved back towards Soul. Soul was equally shocked at seeing the professor standing, almost as if nothing had happened. What's going on? It didn't work at all. Black Star was the only one to have a guess at what happened. As he had a bad feeling he may be right, he cancelled it out. Pushing his glasses up. I checked your soul's data earlier, he confessed as he turned his head around towards his attacker. If I know the nature of your soul's wavelength, then I can match it with my own. If the wavelengths are the same, then no matter what the attack, it will have no effect. At the moment you performed your technique, you and I became like a weapon and master, in a sense. He can do something like that? Kid asked in a dead serious tone, as Patty and Liz listened as well. Naruto let off a small grin at his old teacher. Observation, and in accordance, a highly adaptable soul. Shinigami responded, equally serious, that is Stein-kun's greatest strength. And his most powerful of tools, Naruto added in, Senpai didn't graduate as the strongest Meister in Shibusen for nothing. Looking back at the mirror, as Stein turned around fully to face Black Star, whom is yet to move due to shock, he's finished. A solemn look now on Naruto's face. I'll be taking up the offensive from here on, Stein warned everyone. A smile came to his face, as the next second he rushed at Black Star and in a second was right in front of him. His smile turned into a sick grin, as he brought his hands up hovering at the sides of Black Star's head. Not giving him time to act, Stein unleashed hell on Black Star. With his head in the middle, Stein used his soul's wavelength and turned his hands into conductors. The result being a shocking for Black Star's head, as lightning coursed through Stein's hands, through his head, and towards Stein's opposite hands. Black Star. Tsubaki's cry came, as she along with Macaw and Soul, could do nothing but watch in despair and horror as Stein attacked with a large amount of electrical voltages. The attack lighting up Black Star, as the electricity coursed through his body, his screams of pain unnerving all the listeners. "Stop it!" Soul screamed, but went unheard as Black Star's scream seemed to increase. With a final burst, Stein stopped his attack. Black Star looked to be dead on his feet, as blood poured out of his mouth. Falling backwards, everyone watched as he crashed onto the ground, blood splattering the ground where his head struck. Unmoving. Black Star. "I can't stand this." Kid stood up from his chair. "We're going too," he said. Moving down from the platform, he started walking off. Right," Liz replied, slightly startled that Kid was going to be involved. Patty exclaimed. Naruto let out a small, "tch, I'm going too. Senpai is going too far with this." He turned around and started following Kid. Shinigami turned around in mild surprise at this. "Hold on, Kid, Naruto. This is their maintenance, not yours," he stated. "Besides, you're both Shinigami. Not students at Shibusen." Kid stopped his walk. "In that case, I'll enroll at Shibusen." He turned his head slightly, looking at his brother in question. Naruto nodded his head with a smirk. "Count me in too as well, Chichiyu." The two brothers turned towards their father. "Wherever Kid goes, I go. Can't let my bro have all the fun." Kid gave a smile as he turned back towards the exit. "Chichiyu, enroll us as students, please." "Liz, Patty," he called out before starting walking again. The two Thompson sisters acknowledged the call and followed behind, as Naruto walked beside his brother. Hey, wait." Shinigami spoke in shock, but his call ignored. Seeing that he was stuck in a corner, he couldn't help but feel a little unsettled and worried. But for whom? He wasn't sure. Oh, dear. Stein stood unfazed with what he did, turning the bolt in his head while Black Star laid there unmoving still. They weren't even sure if he was still breathing at this point. Tsubaki was the more shocked of them all, as she could do nothing but stand there and let off a few tears at seeing her partner in this state. If it wasn't for the fact she has Sid chained up with her hair, she would have been able to have protected Black Star somehow. "Tsubaki," Sid spoke, his tone one of sympathy and regret. "I won't try to hide or run away. That's the kind of man I used to be." "Go to him," he said, making Tsubaki turn to face him. "Stein, you bastard." Soul sneered, moving in front of Macaw to face off against this mad doctor. "You won't get away with this. Macaw, get on your feet." Turning to face his partner. "No way," was all he heard Macaw utter, as she collapsed to her knees, shock evident in her eyes. Along with fear. "Huh? What's wrong?" "I can see it." Macaw spoke dead-like, as if in a trance. And with good reason too, for Macaw has got a glimpse of the soul of the person they were fighting. And it is unsettling. Stein's soul was large. Extremely large, its power was radiating, and the soul's size was equally 2 times, maybe 3 times as large as Stein's height in diameter. His soul was a blue color, yet because of the power it was pushing out, all Macaw could see were the slight stitch markings that covered the soul's body, and the large screw bolt that was plunged into it. She was staring at it in disbelief and in worry. This person's soul, it dwarfed all that they had faced against before, and it scared her. Stein grinned slowly, having noticed what Macaw had just witnessed. "It seems you could see my soul." It was more a statement than a question in general. The fact that Macaw was looking pale and was quivering helped in answering it for him as well. "It can't be. Our levels are too different." Macaw continued speaking, dead to the world as she was lost in fear's grasp. This was starting to worry Soul. He wasn't capable of seeing other people's souls, and if this was affecting Macaw on such a level. "Hey, what's with you, Macaw?" Having accepted their situation, Macaw let her body drop forward slowly as she hung her head. "No. We can't win." Sweat pouring down her face, she honestly spoke out her fear and horror at what they were facing against. Marching up to the downed Macaw, Soul knelt down, grabbed her shoulder roughly and shook her, trying desperately to snap her out of it. "Get a hold of yourself. What are you doing, you idiot?" All that got him was for Macaw to smack his hand away, not even once looking up at him. "Urusei, Soul. You're only talking because you can't see his soul." Soul was quiet at her outburst, all the while Stein was standing still at his spot, casually turning the bolt in his head as he watched the scene before him. Soul started getting irritated. "What the hell does that have to do with anything?" he yelled, asked Macaw. All you saw was a soul. It's not like you saw the future. Gripping her arms tightly, she shook her again. Don't give up before we even started fighting. Don't you want to make me into the world's best death scythe? Weren't we gonna make your dumbass womanizing dad shut up once and for all? Raise you head. That's all I'm trying to say. And just like that, Macaw slowly looked up at her partner, looking almost like a lost child. Soul let off a sharp grin, before turning and gesturing towards Stein. Take a good look at him, he told her. This while time you've been out of it, he's been waiting. As Soul said, Stein was still standing where he was, not having moved a single step as he stood there smoking. Not a bad guy, right? Macaw looked back at Soul as he finished. And a smile now came onto her face. Determination rekindled in her eyes. Soul saw this too, and let a natural smile on his face this time instead of his shark-like grin. Right. Let's do this cool. Standing up on her own 2 feet, Macaw stood once more proudly. Sorry, Soul. I know I'm a bother. No worries, Soul replied, before turning back into his demon scythe form once more. Grabbing onto Soul, Macaw spun him in the air above her several times, gaining speed before slicing the air in front of her in a downward strike. Resonance of Souls. Resonance of Souls. Stein watched with interest, as Macaw and Soul's strength and power increased dramatically. A serious look on his face as he watched the glows of their souls coming forth and surrounding them. The master sends its soul's wavelength through its weapon, and the weapon amplifies it, sending it back to the master. Then, from repeating this, they can unleash a huge wavelength. Resonate to the limit. Soul's voice coming from the scythe loudly, as power coursed through both their bodies. Right, Macaw responded, pushing her body to the limit. Stein continued watching, a smile on his face at seeing such promise. How surprising. At their age, to be able to use the witch hunt slash. A playful smirk replacing the smile as he spoke to the pair. You want to end this with one shot, it seems, he continued watching as his words seemed to have effect on the pair, as their power continued rising. Hey, you two. Show me your souls. Bringing her scythe back behind her, it slowly formed the double-sided white blades for the first stage of their attack, traditional scythe master craft. Macaw called out, and in a burst of crystal shower, the final form of their attack emerged. Striking forward, she brought the now transformed scythe and attacked in an upwards thrust. The blade dug into the ground as it was pushed upwards and headed straight for Stein's open arms. As if preparing a counter, witch hunt slash. The force of the blade dug roughly into the ground and brought up an upkick of wind. Unmoving from his spot, Stein let out a pulse of his soul's wavelength into his hands and literally caught the attack head-on with both hands on each side of the white glowing blade. The strike forced him to use his foot to hold him up, as he skidded back a few inches, as the blade itself was only a few centimeters away from his face. It was now a battle between masters, as Macaw continued pushing and powering her strike forward to end it, while Stein stood there with his hands gripping the blade. Winds picked up as it blew away from the witch hunt slash attack, Stein not once blinking or flinching at the sight of this. Crack. Not even when one of his lenses cracked under the power pressure. To think, they can control the witch hunt to this extent. Macaw was now struggling to push further, as her power started to wane. Seeing the opportunity, Stein's eyes widened in retaliation, but it's still imperfect. And with that, he literally cracked the blade under his own pressure as his hands smashed through the blade's form and shattered the witch hunt slash. His own soul wavelength having been used for the counter, it not only destroyed the witch hunt form, but also attacked Macaw directly, causing her to go flying away and crash into the ground as Soul went clattering onto the ground as well. Soul. Barely conscious, Macaw was breathing heavily and in short gasps as Stein's wavelength damaged her body, making her unable to move or defend herself as she heard the mad doctor approach her downed form. Her single open eye held a look of horror in it. Seeing her downed form breathing hard, Stein was unfazed to say the least. Looks like you're just barely still conscious. Moving to the front so she can see him, Stein crouched down to face her. However, before he could do or say anything, a light shot in between them and took the form of Soul as he hovered over Macaw's body protectively. I won't let you lay a finger on my master. Stein had a slight frown on his face, but it turned back into a small smile as he stared at Soul as the boy protected his meister. Then I'll start with you. Stein had a slight frown on his face, but it turned back into a small smile as he stared at Soul as the boy protected his meister. Then I'll start with you, he said, reaching out with his right hand. Soul could do nothing but brace himself for anything the madman might do to him. What he wasn't expecting though, was for Stein to calmly place his hand on Soul's head and utter his next words. You get a passing grade. Macaw, huh? Soul, maintenance lesson complete. Stein spoke, only getting a "wah?" from Soul, as the boy looked up in confusion. A gentle smile on Stein's look, completely destroying the crazed mad doctor smiles he kept giving them before, protecting your master with your own body. You're a good kid. I'll say it again. Soul's confusion getting more confused by the second. What? Stein decided to elaborate to them. You see, Shinigami-sama asked a favor of me. He wanted me to help you guys out with your maintenance. Pointing over to where Tsubaki and Black Star were. But you killed Black Star, didn't you? He accused. That accusation was shot down as Black Star raised his head at the call out. You say some pretty funny things, the assassin said, still weak from his shocking treatment. He's alive. Soul muttered to himself, before another thought came up. But what about Sid-sensei? Once again, his accusation was shot, burned and thrown away in the wind as Sid spoke his case with an embarrassed look and shrug. Yeah. Sorry about that, you guys. I was never the kind of man to trick people. But, that's when I was alive. Don't screw around with us. What the hell is wrong with you people? This was all just a trick. Soul shouted in anger, disbelief and embarrassment all mixed into one. Macaw was the worst off. Having felt as if she was going to die, all she could do was groan and weep. No way. Pushing his glasses back onto his face, but still, Stein began, as his face turning into one of mischievous. It was fun knocking you little kids around. Macaw and Soul could only stare at him with shock and horror as their eyes twitched, both having the same thoughts together. He really is sadistic. Sitting on his forgotten chair, Stein started spinning rapidly before stopping with his arms spread out in a welcoming manner and sparkles in front of his eyes. In a cheerful tone that completely and utterly destroyed the seriousness he had only a few minutes ago. So, everyone. You all must be tired from today, right? Please, stay over at my place tonight. I won't take no for an answer. No way in hell. The angry replies of Macaw, Soul and Black Star came out instantly at the mad doctor, while Tsubaki could only sweat drop. Wallowing in a pit of self-despair, Kid groaned and moaned as he knelt and held himself up from the ground. A look of utter horror and self-loathing on his face. Damn. I'm useless. I should die. Some may be wondering, what happened to Kid not even 5 minutes out of the death room and was now in his own depressing world? Well, it's very simple. He remembered something. Next to him stood the 3 people that were following him not too long ago. Naruto in his illusion form, no fox ears or tail, who was grumbling to himself as every now and again he took a gaze at Kid's form with a twitching eye. Patty, who was laughing carefree at the free show that Kid was putting on. And Liz, who by all rights was annoyed as hell. Not again. How could this happen? Kid spoke out in horror. I think I forgot to fold the ends of my toilet paper into triangles. Naruto's eye was close to a twitching frenzy. Liz groaned out. Only maybe, right? Don't you always remember to do it? She tried reasoning with him, hoping by any god up there watching this can be over with quickly and painlessly. Anyway, you're way too obsessive-compulsive. If we don't hurry, those guys'll die. Why don't you just ignore the toilet paper for now? As if hearing something blasphemous. I can't just ignore it. Kid screamed out. There's no way you can be properly rescued by a half-witted god of death that can't even fold the ends of his toilet paper. Those students will undoubtedly all feel the same and turn me away. Patty went into a laughing hysteric by this point. Sighing loudly, Naruto just turned and went on his way. Wait, Naruto-kun. Where are you going? Liz asked as she was confused on why Naruto was leaving. Aren't you going to help with the Stein situation? Naruto stopped. Turned his head slightly to look out the nearby window of the hallway. It's already been 10 minutes or so. Liz-chan, twisting his head so he can see her at the corner of his eye. Senpai only needs 2 minutes to finish people of their level off. Turning back and resuming his walk, he casually waved. I don't know about you, but I'm going home to sleep. No doubt Chichiyu will have the papers finalized tonight or tomorrow and we can see what happened to those 4 at Shibusen. Ciao, and with the final word said, Naruto's form vanished in a puff of red smoke. When it cleared, what was walking away from them was a blonde-ish small fox, with a red-tipped tail and glove-like fur-covered paws, with Naruto's hat on its head and the long rabbit-like fox ears protruding from the earholes of said hat. Its tail swishing from side to side as it strode down the halls back home. ignoring her little sister's scream of, kawaii, cute. Despite herself thinking the same, Liz turned back to the matter at hand. Which was and unfortunately still is, getting Kid out of his funk. Picking up from where they left off, come on Kid, that's not true, they'll all greet you with smiles. She assured him, hoping he would buy it. Coming up with an idea, how about this? We'll dash back just to make sure, and then we'll dash out and rescue them, she said enthusiastically. I don't wanna, Kid. Why not? Liz, what would I do if I forgot to fold it? The toilet paper would bring my entire world crashing down, the miserable and sickly looking Kid said in despair. I wouldn't be able to live. Then die. Liz yelled, her fiery temper flaring as her eyes went demonic red as it stared at Kid's sprawled form on the ground. Ignoring once more her little sister, as her laughs escalated at Kid's expense, she ran her hand through her hair in thought. You know what? Naruto-kun's right. Turning around, she grabbed onto Patty's arm and the two went walking home. We'll find out what happened when we arrive at Shibusan. Looking back as she walked away, oi, Kid. When you finally find yourself, we'll meet you at home, K? Not getting a response. Well, she was, but not the one she wanted to hear, as all she heard were Kid's self-insults and belittlements. Liz and Patty left the disgruntled Kid out in the hallway. Either he goes nuts and passes out while Shinigami brings him home. Or he'll just, and most likely, go back to check the toilet paper then come back home. Liz is betting on the later. Sometimes I wonder if partnering up with him was a good idea. Looking up in thought, well, we have a better life now. So guess it is, despite his OCD. The ever-laughing sun shined down onto Death City, as the young Meisters and weapons were at Shibusan for a new day in their life. The only ones not enjoying the new day were Macaw, Soul and Black Star, each one feeling the aches and pains from last night's maintenance, that very well nearly killed them. Tsubaki being the only exception, due to not having fought against the crazy professor. I'm so freakin' tired from yesterday, Soul said, head resting on his hand as he tried to ignore his throbbing body, being too lazy to do anything about it. Macaw wasn't faring any better, as she laid her head on her arms against the desk. I had a dream that the professor performed an experiment on me. She groaned out weakly. It would explain why she looked so tired, most likely nightmares. Who wouldn't after fighting against Stein? Trying to change the topic, Soul thought of something that was told to the class a while ago. Oh right, they finally decided on our new teacher, right? Gazing at Macaw. What if it's your day again? Give me a break. The Scythe Master replied, not wanting to have her day ruined any more than it already was. The sounds of wheels were heard approaching the classroom. Clank. With a yelp of surprise, the newcomer fell backwards onto the ground, went into a spinning drive as he continued moving towards the center of the classroom, where he stopped. Revealing himself to be Dr. Frankenstein. Not at all bothered with his position, he took out the student textbook and opened up to a random page, the class watching in shock, amusement, bewilderment, and others. Horror. Alright, let's start class. It can't be. Soul remarked in horror. I think this is the first time. I've wanted to see my dad. Macaw said in fright, as she was literally as pale as a sheet. Damn. He stole my spotlight, Black Star muttered, not at all bothered by the doctor's appearance, besides getting the attention of the class. Today, we'll be doing frog dissections, Stein told his class. The ever-turning and grinding of his bolt echoing the silent classroom, before it clicked. Oh yes, it was going to be interesting from now on. Striding through town in his fox form, face hidden under the covers of his black hat, Naruto was enjoying the peaceful afternoon walk through Death City. Soaking in the rich atmosphere the city provided, it also helped that while in fox form, he received a lot of pats and ear scratches from the civilian children, as well as the occasional teenage to young adult females. Despite having fears of being seen as a fox while in human form, while he was in fox form, he was just that, a normal-looking fox, despite wearing a hat and having rabbit-long fox ears. Naru-kun, the voice of Kasara speaking from within his head, going to visit Blair Chan at the place she's working at. What was it called again? Chupacabras. Duh. I miss Blair Chan, despite having you with me 24/7, Naruto mentally replied, enjoying a nice ear scratch from a little small 5-year-old girl who laughed and ran back to her mother. A fox-like grin came up on his foxy face, and besides, Chichiu will never tell me Soul Eater's place himself unless I wasn't going to maim him, and since I received that phone call from Kitty Chan telling me about her new work and friends, I can finally see her after a week and a half. The smile now gone from his muzzle, but then again, Chichiu had undoubtedly told Kitty-chan not to tell me of Soul's and Maka's apartment address, in fear I'll go while they slept and hang Soul Eater from one of Shibuzen's spikes with nothing more than his underpants. Kasara's laughing was heard in response to his plan for Soul. It seems you're taking more of the Kitsune heritage than you realized, Naru-kun, she said with joy. Kasara had always wanted Naruto to be more fox-like. Since she had watched him growing up the way he did, she enjoyed one major aspect of his life: his prankster genius side. Kitsune foxes, besides being professional illusionists, were notorious as pranksters. Ah, here it is, the chupacabras, and indeed so. Naruto was so busy listening to Kasara and enjoying his stroll, he had absent-mindedly found himself standing in front of the small establishment. Nice place, friendly atmosphere, hearing the laughs and cheers inside, lively too. Guess I'm glad I suggested this idea to Kitty-chan. Moving up to the door, his tail extended and grew to reach the doorknob, and with a good grip and twist he opened and walked right in. Spirit Baka. Get your hands off my mate. The screams of pain and anguish from the Death Scythe known as Spirit was heard all over Death City, sending a chill down the spines of every male that heard it, while some females cheered it on, victims of Spirit's womanizing ways. Stein stopped his teaching suddenly, as the scream of pain reached Shibuzen. Everyone in the classroom stopped as well and turned towards the window, in the direction of said scream. Both the angry yell and the poor soul that followed after. Many remembers the voice as the one that gave that loud death threat to Soul not that long ago. Those that remembered, turned and gave a silent prayer to the now pale and sweating Soul Eater Evans. Well, it seems my old pupil has found Spirit Senpai, Stein casually said in observation. The whole class snapped their heads in his direction, many with their jaws now hanging open, while others, Soul, went even paler and sickly looking. Fixing his glasses, Stein turned back towards his dissection teaching. Senpai should have learned by now. Never cross my pupil's path. A twisted grin now on his face at knowing what he says next is going to cause someone displeasure in the near future, especially when it involves his cute little mate. What was her name again? Oh yes, Blair. Thump. Looking up, his grin widened at seeing the slack-jawed disbelieving look from Maka, and the now out cold and dead-looking Soul that lay on his desk. Oh yes. Life as a teacher was going to be interesting for the crazed doctor from now on. His grin turned sadistic. Interesting and fun indeed. Please. Have mercy. Crack. Ah. My legs aren't supposed to bend that way. The howls of anguish and cries for mercy now flooded the silent cabaret club. The doorman who handled the money and greeted customers had left the scene as soon as Naruto made his appearance. Having heard tales of his exploits and protectiveness over Blair, as said magical cat talked about him non-stop on breaks, he was certain that he did not want to see how protective the fox boy was. As for Blair, she was currently sitting down by a couch with her two new friends, Riza and Arisa, whom sat along with her. Both were wide-eyed and absent-mindedly shoveling popcorn into their mouths as they watched the free entertainment. Blair had a smile on her face as she held her popcorn that she produced, out of thin air, sharing it with her two friends. No, crack. The three girls flinched and ooh-dee, as they watched Spirit wail loudly as he was getting turned into a pretzel. What was even scarier, was the fact Naruto was still in fox form doing it. The bun-haired styled Riza turned towards the surprisingly cheerful Blair sitting next to her, shock and a mild case of fear in her voice. Be Blair-chan. Shouldn't we? Crack. Flinching as Naruto popped Spirit's shoulder behind the poor redhead, shouldn't we stop this? NYA. Don't worry about it, Riza-chan. Blair waved off. Foxy Koi knows when to stop, crack. Tilting her head in thought as she ignored Spirit's wails, at least. I think he does, or was that for the nice man that always gives me fish? Arisa, the short-haired woman, gave Blair a deadpanned look. You think? All she got was a shrug from Blair as she tossed more popcorn into her mouth. Yo, Kitty-chan, Naruto called out, waltzing up to the sitting females in his fox form still. The crumpled, destroyed, twisted, and highly unrecognizable body of Spirit was left behind, as the poor flirtatious man was finally out cold. His whole as a form looked like a big ball of limbs sticking out of everywhere. How Naruto was able to do this to a fully grown man in a small fox body was anybody's guess. How about we head out for some fish and ramen, My treat, the fox boy gave the magical Catwoman his signature fox grin. Jumping at the offer, Blair vanished in a puff of purple smoke. Once the smoke cleared, it revealed the cat form that Blair always takes, curly tail and hat included, NYA. It's a date foxy koi. The two animals left side by side with their tails intertwined, leaving the cabaret club in a comfortable silence. Riza blinked. Turned towards the still form that used to be a man. Turned back to the door the magical animals left. Then to Arisa, despite that being absolutely adorable and charming. Remind me never to get that foxy boy mad. Arisa could only nod at it, still too shocked at what became of the death scythe known as Spirit. Nearly a week has passed since the Spirit incident at the Chupacabras, and nearly a week since Stein has been the new teacher at Shibusen. But most of all, it's been a time when Soul encountered a strange phenomenon that nearly gave him a heart attack. When Blair came home, that day, she came back with a big satisfied grin on her face. And didn't tease him. It was a sign, an omen. But, such paranoia was the last thing on his mind today. As Black Star and himself sat waiting outside Shibusen. Rumor and talk around the school spoke of new students arriving. But to top it off, the students were said to be the Shinigami's sons. Meanwhile, back at Shibusen, in the class Crescent Moon room. Let's see, today's class will be. Yes, a dissection lab, the happy smile on Stein's face at the thought of his favorite topic. However, his enthusiasm wasn't shared amongst the students, as they all groaned in annoyance. Macaw slowly raised her hand, her face a mix of tired and annoyed. Ever since you became our teacher, Professor Stein, all we've done is dissections. Her point made, but ultimately ignored as Stein's smile turned sadistically. But you see, today's specimen is vastly different from the ordinary frog or mouse, Stein explained, while motioning with his hands towards the cage on the desk. Today, we'll be poking around inside. Yes, this, inside said cage, was a bird, of the endangered species, cuckoo-san. The bird was currently staring wide-eyed at the mad professor. That little bit of information left the class as a whole stunned and shocked at what their new teacher was planning to do with an endangered species. Macaw chose to speak once more, being the voice of reason. But that's an extremely rare bird on the verge of extinction. Once more, her words ignored as Stein merely chuckled lowly before turning his head towards the caged bird. The sheer craziness in his face, as the smile never left for 1 second. I won't let them go extinct before I see their insides. This guy is completely out of his mind. Macaw gave up. Hearing a sigh, she turned to find it coming from Tsubaki, who looked distressed and worried at the moment. Stein took this time to notice 2 missing students. Where are Soul and Black Star, by the way? Did something happen? They're always skipping. Macaw waved off the concern. Those 2 were always known to skip classes every once in a while, so them not being there today wasn't any different. Those 2 idiots need to pull it together. But, if they want to be together that bad, they should just team up. That got Tsubaki's attention, as she flinched. Right, Tsubaki-chan? Macaw asked offhandedly. No. That can never happen. Tsubaki began throttling Macaw's collar, having a mild panic attack at the thought of Soul and Black Star teaming up. Well, this is no good. Stein spoke up, getting everyone's attention. Everybody probably knows by now, but our class is getting a couple of new students today. A normal affectionate smile came onto Stein's face. It's nice for 2 sisters who were raised on the streets like us to be able to attend school. Don't you think, Patty? Liz asked her little sister as she, along with Patty and Kid, were walking up the steps towards the Shibusen building. Walking backwards, so that she can see the view behind her of the city below, Patty never took her eyes off the grand view that is Death City. I'm friggin' happy, she replied merrily. Liz and Patty both had hard lives before joining up with Kid, so having a chance at actually going to an educational facility, school, academy, DMWA, or otherwise, was a privilege for them. Kid was at the front, as he walked up the stairs with Liz and Patty behind him. What's taking Naruto so long? He said he was going to come with us, but I haven't seen him since this morning, he asked, stated, worried slightly for his brother. His worry was removed as Liz answered, he said he was going to pay his Kitty-chan a last-minute visit before coming. Guess he is being held up, she said with a shrug. Kid could only sigh in slight irritation. I see. Well, he said he was going to come, so he'll come I guess. Their walk continued on in silence, as they drew closer and closer to the top of the stairs. As they did, Kid gazed up and awed at the sight of Shibusen. How magnificent Chichiyu's school is. Such perfect symmetry. As they reached the top, would you happen to be one of the sons we keep hearing about? A voice spoke out. Directing their gaze towards it, they find Soul sitting at the steps of Shibusan. Are you here to show us around the school? Kid asked. Soul laughed to himself. New kid's asking me to show him around after he's 3 hours late. You sure are used to your dad's 7 lights. Note, 7 lights, is a Japanese idiom used to refer to helpful influence from another. In this case, Soul is implying Kid is spoiled and sheltered. Note, what? 7 lights. Kid narrowed his eyes at Soul. Appearing before him, Kid pointed at Soul in retaliation. Don't say 7, use 8. 8. Wha? You cut the number 7 in half, it can never be symmetrical. So why not use 8? You can cut it in half both vertically and horizontally, and it stays perfectly symmetrical. Kid ranted on, before collapsing onto the floor in front of Soul. Don't use 7. Use 8, please. I'm begging you. Soul could only watch in slight worry and hesitation at the boy in front of him. Are you okay? Liz took a deep sigh at this. No, he's totally screwed up, she plainly said, while Patty was laughing by her side. Yahoo! Hearing a shout, the normal people of the 4 turned and looked up to find someone standing at one of the spikes of Shibusan. I'll never let anyone steal my spotlight, I don't care who you are. What's that? A monkey. Liz, son of the Shinigami. I will assassinate you, and tomorrow, you will hear the rumors. Must be a monkey. Liz, things like, I knew it, Black Star has transcended to godhood. Hey kid, it looks like he's talking to you, Liz said, getting a slow dead reaction from the still moping kid. Greatest ego on earth. Tomorrow, a halo will shine around me. The person's shouts were cut short as the spike he was standing on chipped away, leaving the boy to struggle with gravity as he descended back to earth. If anyone had paid attention, they'd have noticed Kid having a panic attack at the sheer devastation of perfect symmetry. Well, in his world at least. Crashing his feet to the ground as he landed hard, the person revealed to be Black Star. Looks like my bigness is just too much for you to handle. It's no wonder, the ages quake beneath my feet. You ruined the symmetry, you little punk. Kid gritted out through clenched teeth. Hands on hips, Liz spoke as if speaking of the weather. Oh, now you've done it. Completely ignoring the immediate danger that was slowly building within Kid, Black Star continued running off his mouth. Come get some. I'll give you a taste of my assassination techniques. It's not an assassination if you've been seen, Soul tried explaining to his accomplice, though it went to deaf ears. You disgust me. Kid's voice cutting in Soul's lecture to Black Star, getting the attention of both boys on him. If you pick a fight with a god of death, I can't guarantee your soul's safety, speaking to them with a glare. Mostly at Black Star. He turned his attention to the sisters, Liz, Patty, transform. Oka, why? Patty replied happily in her own way, while her elder sister could only sigh at the thought of fighting. We've done nothing but fight since we got off the streets, she muttered to herself. Both sisters glowed as their forms shifted into the twin demon pistols, and being caught by Kid in his trademark upside-down grip with his pinky at the trigger ready. Both guns pointed at Black Star. If it's a fight you want, you got it. Let's go, Soul. Black Star spoke with confidence. Soul lazily stood with indifference to the whole situation, but his eyes showed his eagerness in the fight coming. You're the one that wants to fight, walking behind Kid to get in position, but I'm warning you, if we go at it, I ain't losing, hell yeah. We form up one badass pair, Black Star commented. These two may not be perfect. Kid narrowed his eyes as his memories played back to the fight against Stein that he witnessed, but they managed to hold off Professor Stein. I can't let my guard down. The 3 stood off, 2 against 1. And with 3 words from Kid, all hell broke loose. Let's do it. The technical school for Reaper Arms Masters. In short, the Shibusan, operating from the deepest recesses of all the corners of the world, in order to prevent the second coming of the demon god, who would bring about the destruction of all existence and envelop mankind within the spirals of madness. The Shinigami established this agency of weapons and those that would be trained to wield them. To put it bluntly, it's an organization of justice to protect peace, but why is it a trade school of all things? Well, who cares? Alright then, let's get all hyped up and read on. NYA, the soft purring of a content cat sounded off, as the feline rested on top of her lover's hat while being scratched by said lover. enjoying how his fingers played and scratched her belly while Naruto walked across town and towards Shibusen. You sure know how to treat a girl, Naruto. Blair meowed softly, her head dipping a little as Naruto's hand came up to scratch under her chin. Really know how to treat a girl, NYA. Chuckling softly, Naruto stopped his scratching, ignoring Blair's disappointed whine. Now my little kitten, I'm late enough as it is for class. Having spent the entire morning with you and spoiling you rotten, nay? Chuckling again when he felt Blair moving on top of his hat, almost picturing the arms crossing and pouty face that she was most likely making. No fair. Why did you tell Shinigami-sama to enroll you in Shibusen? Turning her body around enough so that she can dip her head below the rims of his hat and stare at his face. If you go to the academy, I won't get as much cuddle time as I want, she whined, getting a laugh and smile from Naruto as he patted Blair on the head. You sure do love to monopolize me, don't you, Blair-chan? Getting a mock pout from the cat, but think of it this way. We may get less cuddle time, as you say, but now we get to spend more time on missions, since Chichiyu also included you on the list. Bringing a hand up to his chin in thought, I think that small part was Chichiyu's way for you to make sure I don't go after Soul. Smart ass father. He could swear he could hear his father laughing when he muttered that last part. Giggling lightly, Blair gazed back down at Naruto's face. I guess it is. Why do you want to harm Soul-kun anyways, Koi? Blair tilted her head. I know he can be troublesome at times, but he means well, and has kept me satisfied with the amount of easy teasing I got to do to him, giggling again at remembering all the times she had sent the cool guy flying via nosebleed. Naruto scowled. I'm mad at him for eating your soul, Blair. Blair listened intently, as Naruto only said her name without any form of affectionate suffix when he was serious. No matter if he is a good person or not, he ate your soul, bringing his hands together as he cracked his knuckles. I'm gonna make him pay for that. Sighing at her easily angered love, Koi. I'm a cat, I got multiple souls, so don't worry about it, patting him on the head, and besides. When Shinigami-sama confiscated all of Soul-kun's and Maka-chan's collected souls, he returned mine back to me. So I got all 9 back, no biggie, right? She tried reassuring her love. After a while staring at him, he finally relented and crossed his arms with a huff. Fine. I won't kill him. Looking at the still grinning cat from the corner of his eye, but I can maim him, right? He asked hopefully, only to get a deadpanned look from his kitty cat love. No. She said, getting another huff from Naruto. Reaching the steps of Shibusen, Blair relaxed once more on Naruto's hat as her love walked up towards the academy. Neither one knowing of the fight that was currently escalating at the top and the crowd they had gathered. Charging at back of Kid, Soul with his arm transformed to that of his scythe blade made an attempt at taking Kid out by surprise. Not even glancing behind, Kid blocked the blade with Liz's gun form. What the? This caught Soul by surprise, but that quickly went into shock as Kid thrust Patty's gun form into his gut at point blank. Click. Groaning in pain, as a burst of blackish red static of power erupted from the gun, into his body and out of his back. The burst of energy sending Soul flying back into the ground several feet away from Kid. His body still, as Kid stood up. A twitch from Soul's body came, and just as quickly as it came he started writhing in pain. Rolling back and forth while cradling his stomach from where he got shot. Christ, that hurt. Patty's laugh was heard over Soul's cries, as Liz's voices came as well to elaborate on what just happened. We're different from ordinary guns that just shoot bullets. We shoot a compressed wavelength of our master's soul. As the fight continued, the wheelchair of Stein came rolling out of the academy, followed closely by his students to watch the fight. Oh my. Well, they should have picked a different opponent, he commented seriously in his usual lazy way, yet intrigued all the same. Professor Stein, is that boy holding the guns who everyone is talking about? Maka asked, as she stood behind with Tsubaki next to her. Despite knowing the seriousness of this fight, Maka was also intrigued by it since if the rumors were true, then it was a golden opportunity to witness a fight that involved Kid in it. Hi, a smile came upon Stein's face, one of the sons of Shinigami, Death the Kid. It was his wish to be enrolled here at Shibusen, but his abilities tower over anyone else here. This earning surprised looks of awe and fear from numerous of the students that heard. As the fight continued, an idea came to Stein. Oh, my dear soul, seeing Maka-san? Getting said girl's attention, though hesitatively since Stein said it in a creepy sort of way, I have a special lesson planned for you. Black Star launched a roundhouse kick at Kid, but Kid jumped back to avoid it. Soul took the chance again and charged at Kid from behind, but proved fruitless as Kid raised his gun again and shot at Soul, causing the Scythe Boy to retreat. Fixing his glasses, Stein continued watching the fight. Look over there at Kid-kun and his twin pistols as they fight. How are their souls' wavelengths? Synced up perfectly? Asking with humor in his voice, already knowing the answer, but wanting to hear what the girl had to say. Closing her eyes, Macaw snapped them open to reveal pupils forming in her usually pupil-less eyes. Her sight changed, as she saw the three souls of Kid, Liz and Patty. Kid a soft orange glow with dull eyes, and his trademark 3 strips on the soul's head. Liz a soft pink with a pair of lazy eyes and her cowboy hat acting as her soul's tail, as the tip waved at the top. And Patty, the same soft pink glow as her sister's but with a more cheerful expression on the soul's face. Her hat the same as Liz's was also seen on the soul. Yes. It should be overly difficult to sync up the wavelengths of 2 weapons. But they're very stable, her observation getting a smile from Stein, though unseen as she continued, and they seem to share a respect for him too. No, that's not it. A thoughtful look on her face, is it? Admiration? Magnificent. Correct, Stein replied. Looking back at the fight, twin pistols, the Thompson sisters. Those 2 girls were raised on the streets, so for someone with a dignified soul like Kid-kun, their admiration is to be expected. As for Kid-kun, it's good for him to be surrounded by personalities different from his neuroticism. That is, the laid-back and positive souls of the Thompson sisters. They make a great team, Macaw commented. Their attentions went back to the fight as Black Star charged at Kid. How about a little taste of my wavelength? Black Star arm was stretched out to the side as static started jumping around his arm, preparing for a wavelength strike. Thrusting forward towards Kid's head, Kid avoided the strike. Taking his chance, Kid crouched down and sweep-kicked Black Star off his feet. Not giving the ninja boy any rest, he pushed himself upwards and with his back, colliding with Black Star's body and sending the boy flying over him. The action caught many spectators' attention, as Black Star is known to be quite good in hand-to-hand combat. Even though Black Star's specialty is martial arts, he's just playing with him. And Soul can't stand up to him as he is. Macaw's words came out of her shocked body, while Tsubaki was starting to worry for her partner now. You asshole. Black Star yelled as he charged once more from one side while Soul took the other side. Bringing his guns across his chest and facing his opponents, he shot at the 2 of them, sending them back again. What? Feeling a tug on his leg, he looked down to see that Black Star had a material from his clothing wrapped around his left leg. With a strong pull, Black Star had spread Kid's legs far enough that he collapsed onto the ground, and as this happened, Soul launched into the air while transforming. Gotcha. Soul said, as he took his full scythe form and came down spinning towards Kid's prone form. Tilting his head in time, Kid narrowly dodged the strike, as the blade's glowing gleam missed his face by mere inches and impacted at the ground besides him. Not wasting time and taking advantage of Soul's position, Kid did a backflip which also brought Black Star flying towards Soul's blade's flat side head first. Black Star's body twitched in pain a few times, as Soul's reflection from the blade looked down at his battle partner. I really want to kill that punk now. Macaw and Tsubaki could only stare with a look of embarrassment at their situation. They're hopeless, Macaw muttered. Kid stood tall, as his face went serious. Now I'll show you the power of a Shinigami. Wind started kicking up, as it whipped around Kid's form. Resonance of souls. The 3 yells of Kid, Liz and Patty came together, and with that, Kid's body floated off the ground as his wavelength started climbing. To Soul seeing people, his soul visibly showing around his body, enveloping Kid's entire form with its soft blue glow. Halfway up the stairs to Shibusen, Naruto's head snapped up as he sensed the increase of power. And already recognized from whom it was coming from. What's going on? Kid's soul as well as Liz Chan's and Patty Chan's have expanded. Kid's body continued floating as his power increased, black tendrils of energy circling around him. These tendrils took the form of skulls, showing his alignment to his blood as a Shinigami. 6 sparks of static started going off on Kid's arms, 3 on each one. As it came and gone, in their place were black spike-like appendages. His left gun glowed pink, as the form enlarged and covered a portion of him arm just below the spikes, transforming into a cannon-like weapon with a large barrel. The Shinigami symbol, a skull with 3 pointed teeth and eyeholes, was present on the barrel as well. The right gun soon transformed into an identical cannon weapon. Bringing his arms across his chest, Kid lashed out and his power stopped growing, allowing his body to drop down onto the ground in a squat position with both weapons at his side. Shit. Kid brought out the cannons. What is going on up there? Naruto thought in panic, as he raced up the steps as fast as he could, as he held Blair on top of his hat with one hand to keep her steady. I don't know, but you better hurry. Kasara's voice came. Surprisingly, she sounded worried. Whoever is facing Kid as he is now, won't likely to survive if he's going to shoot them at point-blank range. He's seriously going to injure somebody if he shoots them with this amount of power. NYA. Naruto, what's wrong? Blair yelled out, holding onto Naruto's hat as his hand held her down as well.
Shit, I'm not going to make it in time. Cursing to himself quietly, he took his attention back up to Blair for a moment. Blair, whatever happens, do not let go. I'm going to use a bit of my soul to get us there faster, okay?
Blair was worried now, as she knew that Naruto couldn't use his soul's power well unless he suffered from the repercussions of it.
Yes, he could use it for fighting or for basic uses like any other Shibusan student to pull off techniques, but if he actually tapped into it without Kasara's help,
then it was a disaster. Keikoi. What's going on? She stuttered out, but gasped as a violent rush of power coursed through the air. The sounds of flesh ripping was heard, and before she knew what happened, she felt the force of gravity on her as Naruto took to the skies. With a pair of demonic-like wings, that at the base was slowly spreading across his back from the point of connection. As the winged male took off towards Shibusan, Kasara was gritting her teeth as the unstable soul of Naruto's was currently assaulting her. But she had to endure for as long as possible. Whatever Kid was doing, it was too dangerous to let it be, as he might accidentally kill someone. Hurry, Naruto-kun, her thoughts going through her head, as her surrounding area within Naruto's body was slowly being consumed by chaos. We don't need another repeat of what happened at Russia. Especially not here. Not now. Damn it. Dark lightning danced around Kid, as it gathered around the spikes on his arms. I don't like the looks of that, Soul said, now worried and second-guessing his choice in fighting against Shinigami's son. Resonance stable. Noise at 0.3%, Liz spoke out, the black lightning dancing wildly around Kid's body. Rings of red started pulsing and moving along the barrels on each arm, gathering up at the front. Black needles fully charged with soul wavelength, Patty voiced out in a surprising serious tone. A ball of pink energy started growing at the mouths of both cannons, pulsing with power as the rings continued feeding it. Feedback in 4 seconds. Liz's voice sounded off, as the balls of energy burst into smaller particles of energy that floated around the mouths of the cannons. Large skull-like shadows overlaid above him as it aligned with both cannons' bodies. A red glow soon came from within both cannons' body, the energy from it brightening up with each second. 3, Liz, 2, Patty, 1, Liz, firing. Patty, as she made a peace sign. Lifting his arms as he brought them together, the shadow skulls fading away from the action, Kid aligned both cannons against each other as the glowing energy from within reached its peak. Death cannon, a bright flash came, and with a strong push back, the energy that had built up within shot forth in a stream of destructive proportions. The winds kicked as the energy came barreling towards the panicking pair. Aw crap. Not good, Soul screamed, too frightened to move at this point, and even if he could, he couldn't avoid the blast. Black Star, however, didn't find this the least bit worrisome. Ridiculous. There's no way something like that will hurt me, he stated, as the attack drew closer. As it closed in, a figure landed in front of them, taking the shot head on. Nobody besides the two noticed this, and as the blast went off, it developed a large plume of skull-shaped smoke that covered a large portion of the blast area. No one seeing the pair flying back due to the shockwave of the explosion. Standing up, Kid turned his back at the scene, believing that his fight was done. The cannons on his arms reverted back into their gun forms. The students that were watching stood in shock and awe at the display of power, while Maka and Tsubaki were worried for their partners. What nobody was expecting was for someone else's voice to call out from within the smoke. Kid. Kid flinched, and a look of horror came to his face. Stein flinched as well, but soon a sadistic smile came to his face, knowing full well whose voice that was. That smile, however, turned into a frown. Seeing a humanoid-shaped silhouette and large wings. What the? It couldn't be. As the smoke cleared, there stood Naruto, with his knees bent slightly apart, arms crossed over his chest and large black tattered-looking demonic wings, with a red coloring for skin on the underside, that were spread outwards far then inwards to create a large protective barrier. The Shinigami's skull was dead center of the shield at the front, the black pulsing form acting as a shield. With a mighty flap outwards, Naruto dismissed the barrier and skull shield. His wingspan covered far, taller than he is in height on both wings account each. It seems he has indeed learned some secrets about his soul, Stein muttered, but Maka heard him nonetheless. Looking at Stein briefly in shock, she turned back towards the new company. What she saw left her speechless and terrified. She was looking inside of Naruto, seeing his soul, but it wasn't what she was expecting. As she looked, she saw not only his soul but another as well, seeming to struggle against an enveloping surge of power that was trying by the looks of it, consume it into itself. Naruto's soul was a light orange ball with a cheesy grin on it and the eyes thinned out as it curved slightly upwards. The soul tail wasn't there, as in its place was in fact multiple spikes of hair, similar to black stars. However, one of the hairs seemed to extend from the bottom and out, forming a long tail-like appendage. The other soul, however, confused Maka greatly. It was a dark red, almost blood red in color. The soul had a razor-sharp toothy grin, 2 pairs of vertical glowing pupils, at the top were 2 long rabbit-like ears, and behind it were 9 swaying tails. But the thing that confused, worried and terrified Maka was the fact that the orange soul was much larger than the red soul, with the red being inside the orange. And in between the two, in the space that separated them, was what looked to be a literal storm cloud of black and white lightning that was fighting against the red lightning from the inner soul. It felt destructive. It felt powerful. It felt chaotic. What is this? Maka's thoughts portraying onto her face, as Stein was carefully looking at her from the corner of his eye. Turning back towards his pupil, he too had seen what was happening inside Naruto. So it seems he finally understands the power within him. But can't control it, least it controls him. But Kasara appears to help with that somewhat by fighting it. The question is eye-narrowing. How long can she keep it up before being consumed by it? The sickening sound of flesh being torn and molded was heard, as the large pair of wings sank slowly into Naruto's bare back. With the wings gone, he stormed up towards the still frozen form of his brother. How many times have I told you, control your emotions when using the god-freaking death cannon? All watched as Kid did not move as this newcomer marched his way up to the Shinigami's son. Reeling his fist back, everyone's eyes went wide at the implication, and they weren't disappointed at what happened next. You Baka. Punch. A strong right hook to the cheek sent Kid flying and bouncing back, his body crashing into the outer walls that surrounded Shibusen. Liz and Patty were fortunate enough to have been released upon fist impact, so they were able to revert back to their human forms and watch Kid get sent via Naruto punch. Numerous jaws dropped at what just happened. Soul and Black Star, having recovered from being blown away by the explosion, were gobsmacked that someone did something they've been trying to do all afternoon. The silence was broken when chuckling was heard. All eyes turned towards the source, it being from Professor Stein. Still haven't cracked the mystery that is Kid-kun. Naruto-kun? Laughing at the question, as he received wide stares from his students. Standing up from his chair, he walked up to his old student, Maka and Tsubaki, taking this chance to check on their partners. Blinking owlishly, Naruto gave a feral grin at the man. Senpai. Chichiyu didn't mention you being a teacher here at Shibusen. Grabbing the man's arm, as Stein did the same, the two gave each other a firm shake in greeting. Did you get drafted into becoming a sensei? Or were you hoping to probe around a few students' minds and bodies? The two laughing at the joke in Stein's expense. Their humor, however, not fully agreeing with the students that were still around to hear that. Those two know each other. The question coming from Soul, as Maka helped him up. His partner gave a nod as she watched the two people interacting. Hi. You and Black Star weren't in class when Professor Stein mentioned new students coming. He's the second one, his ex-student. That froze Soul cold, recalling a very specific detail that revolved around that. But for the life of him, he could not remember. Soul-kun. Ah, now he remembered. Crap. Maka and Soul toppled over as the heavy weight of human Blair collided with Soul's back. The Catwoman pinning Soul face down as she peered at his face from the side with a cat-like grin. I hope Foxy Koi didn't give you a scare when he showed up, Sol-kun, she said innocently, not realizing the fear gates she had unleashed within Sol. Wait. Foxy K. Koi. Visibly paling, Sol neck creaked forwards to face the person that had saved him just recently. His eyes went wide as he saw the now glaring face of Naruto, his eyes seeming to glow a murderous red under the shadows of his hair. Macaw, hi? I leave all my worldly possessions to you, eh? Soul Eater Evans. The chilling voice of Naruto loud and clear for all to hear. I believe you owe me an explanation on why I was away on a mission one day. To return home to find not only was my love's home attacked, or that she was constantly hunted down by you and your partner, or the fact that my love's home is now destroyed as a result of said hunting. But for one specific detail, the murderous red eyes seeming to darken into blood pools of an empty abyss, promising pain if messed with, you Soul Eater Evans. 8. My. Blair Chan's soul. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Stein was grinning like a madman. Liz and Patty were helping the now standing kid, all three watching the event unfold. And Sol. He was sweating up a storm. Finding the strength for survival, Sol pushed himself to stand. Ignoring the eeps from Macaw and Blair, the walking dead man Sol turned about and ran like the hounds from hell were upon him. Get back here, Soul Eater Evans, and take your punishment like a man. Screw being a man, I want to live. This is so not cool. Stein busted out laughing, as Sol tried escaping the wrath of Naruto. All the spectators gave a short prayer once more for the soon-to-be dead man. Liz sighed while Patty laughed and kid. Well, he was knocked out again due to an unexpected haircut that threw his symmetry off. Blair turned to Macaw, scratching her head sheepishly, as Macaw watched with a twitching eyebrow of annoyance and embarrassment. Nya. Sorry Macaw-chan, Blair shrugged. I tried calming him down so he wouldn't kill Sol-kun. Hopefully he won't. Macaw just palmed her face, grumbling to herself about the baka that is known as Sol, whom unfortunately, is her partner. When I get my hands on you Evans, I'm going to make you wish you had become a death scythe. That way, you may actually survive. Ex-partner, if Stein's ex-student has anything to say about it. Opening her fingers slightly, as her one opened eye gazed at the panicking weapon of hers, she couldn't help but give a whining groan at the scene. Why us? The end. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.